I don't think so. Deborah. Are these your notes or actually I have this?
They're right there from the day.
You have to take.
We have to divide them.
In the notes. Interesting. Are you still at
Alright, welcome back to the afternoon.
I can't read that. Full value.
We're now in the playoffs of the 2023 PACE NSC. My name is Mike Bentley. I will be the moderator today. We have Plymouth and Mira Loma in round 6 here. Why don't we first get started by doing a buzzer check. I should also mention that this round is sponsored by Peter Schmidt, who has the following message. Good luck to teams at the 2023 iteration of PACE. You all deserve congratulations for being here. Thanks to Peter for sponsoring.
Just read the whole sponsorship message.
What do you say? Oh, did I miss a part here?
It's a very important part of the message. Oh no, they edited it.
No, we got it all.
Oh, they changed it. There was a different message earlier. That said.
Alas. Okay. Is everyone ready to get started? Let's see.
You better get
So
right.
here.
Loud and clear, like, no mum.
And alright, we'll get started with toss-up 1. The maestoso fourth section of an orchestral work named for this instrument begins with a 2-octave C major chord before a fugue begins in the low strings. A musician who played this instrument succeeded Franz Tunder in organizing a series of musical concerts called Abendmusik, held in St. Mary's Church in Lübeck. A work composed for this instrument opens with a mordent on A, then descending G, F, E, D, C sharp, up to D. An orchestrated version of that work begins the film Fantasia. 3 staves are often used to notate music for this instrument regardless of the number of manuals used because of its use of foot pedals. Tim?
Organ.
Organ is correct.
Good buzz.
Yes.
It's like that.
Bonus. Pencil and paper. Sorry, Guess what I'm going to say. Pencil and paper ready. An allele has 80% frequency in a population for 10 points each. If there are only 2 alleles for the trait and they're in Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, what percentage of the population is heterozygous? You have 10 seconds.
0.16.
You have to multiply by 2. So
I have 0.1.
0.32.
0.32.
0.32.
Yes. Not a biologist himself, G.H. Hardy was introduced to eugenics over a game of cricket with this scientist. He names a square used to predict offspring genotypes.
Punnet.
While Hardy was intuiting the equilibrium on a cricket pitch, actual biologist Wilhelm Weinberg derived the same formulas from careful studies of these people. Studies of these people were historically and often wrongly used to decouple genetic and environmental contributions to traits.
Yeah, it might just be identical twins, right? Like these people are identical.
Makes sense.
Like twins.
Twins.
That's right for 30.
Nice.
Toss for 2. This compound holds DSPC, DMA, and pegylated DMG together in the nanoparticles designed by Moderna for drug delivery. The chiral pneumatic phase is named for this compound because liquid crystals were discovered in its benzoate ester. This molecule's polar OH group orients with sphingomalanin at microdomains called RAFs. This compound's biosynthesis requires a remarkable domino reaction in which squalene cyclizes.
Cholesterol.
That's right for 10.
Nice. Dude, good rap.
Bonus. A group of philosophers nicknamed the Three Johns revived this physicist's whole argument to oppose the idea that space exists absolutely. For 10 points each, Davis physicist, whose 1905 papers use thought experiments about trains to illustrate concepts like time dilation.
Einstein.
Per the whole argument, viewing space as a substance violates this assumption of general relativity. This philosophical position broadly holds that all events are necessitated by prior causes.
Causality? No, isn't it butterfly?
No, it's not butterfly.
Answer?
Causality.
is determinism.
Oh.
The three Johns named an equivalent after this 18th century thinker since he used the identity of indiscernibles to argue for a relational theory of space in letters to Samuel Clarke.
18th century thinker.
Leibniz. Locke, Hume.
No, that's not
Answer?
Leibniz. Leibniz.
That's right.
Nice.
Nice.
20
Talking
points.
about physicists.
Oh, yeah, makes sense.
Toss of 3. In this play's final scene, an author who struggles with cerebral accidents recites a verse about a blanching orange tree. An artist in this play acknowledges her blue devil as a representation of her impulses. A character in this play drinks poppy seed tea and is wrapped in a hammock after trying to swim to China in an attempt to kill himself. Judith Fellows leads a group of Baptist girls in this play who appear in its first act before the world's oldest poet, Nano, is rolled onto a veranda. The artist Hannah Jelks is pursued in this play by a pastor-turned-tour guide who stays at Maxine Fox's...
The Night of the Iguana.
That's right.
Nice.
For 10 points.
That's like the one Tennessee Williams looked at. Kind of granted.
Oh, oops.
Fucking China is so stocked for that. Like,
I don't know the place. So.
yeah, I have carded. I just-
All right, bonus. This real-life person's monologue is spoken by a female and then a male actor in Carol Churchill's play A Mouthful of Birds. For 10 points each, famous French intersex person whose memoirs were published by Auguste Ambroise Tardieu, Michel Foucault analyzed this person's life experience in a 1980 book.
What?
Is it the
Marquis de
Intersect?
Sade.
Sure.
Answer?
The Marquis de Sade.
This is Herculine Barbin. Foucault came across Herculine Barbin's memoirs while doing research for a book on the history of this concept. Heteronormativity involves society viewing one of these things as a default.
Like a sexual orientation.
Sexual.
Sexual orientation.
That's right. Foucault's analysis of Herculine Barbin was criticized for contradicting his own repressive hypothesis, according to this Judith Butler book, which argues that the title concept is performative.
Is it gender trouble?
That's right, for 20 points.
Nice.
Nice.
Toss up. Men from this country founded Japan's Ministry of Public Works and the Imperial College of Engineering in Tokyo. The Chosu Five studied in this country, which was the home of two sailors who were murdered by a samurai in the Icarus Affair. This country bombarded Kanagoshima during its brief war with...
The Netherlands?
No, sorry. With the Satsuma domain in 1863. A 1903 treaty with Japan marked the end of this country's splendid isolation policy. In 1942, this country surrendered its Strait settlement to Japanese troops. Japan, South Korea, and two former colonies of this European country are called the Asian Tigers due to their rapid growth rate. We're going to name this country that colonized Singapore and Hong Kong.
UK.
That's right.
Yeah.
Those from your Loma. In one caricature, this person was depicted as a hyena pulling away from the conjoined body of her husband, who has a cuckold's horns. For 10 points each, name this person the subject of numerous political pornographies. This person enjoyed a marble pleasure dairy called Hamu and earned the unflattering nickname Madame Deficit.
Is this Marquis de Sade?
Sure.
Marquis de Sade.
As Marie Antoinette. Parisians spat at Marie Antoinette before she was executed by one of these machines.
Guillotine.
This author of the Declaration of the Rights of Woman and of the Female Citizen wrote an unfinished play in which she confronts Marie Antoinette. Her execution was used to warn other politically active women.
It's like Victoria or like Victorine something. We learned this
Answer?
in class. Victoria.
Is Olympe de Gouges, 10 points. Toss up. The protagonist of a play by this author kills a vision of a white woman after ordering the death of Mostique. A poem by this author describes a worm, kernel of carrion, crying, "Waste no compassion."
Walcott.
That's right for power.
Crazy boys. Good job.
Bonus. Young et al. 2016 reports oxygen isotopic evidence for vigorous mixing during the formation of this body. For 10 points each, name this astronomical object that is primarily responsible for the Earth's tides.
A moon.
Young et al. Built on this hypothesis, which suggests that the moon formed from the coalescence of debris resulting from a collision between the Earth and Theia, a protoplanet that provided much of Earth's water.
Great impact.
Just have a giant impact. Two answers required. Theia is hypothesized to have orbited the Sun at one of these 2 points in the Earth-Sun system. Each Jupiter Trojan orbits the Sun at one of these 2 points in the Jupiter-Sun
I think it's
systems.
L4 and L5. Those are
Okay,
the two
yeah,
stable ones, right?
Yeah, L4 and L5.
That's right, for 20 points. Toss up 6. A holder of this position ostracized corrupt tax collectors called maznand and argued that not shaving the head exempted followers from a different tax. A holder of this position embarked on 5 journeys around the world after seeing people burning in the flames of the Fourth Age. One holder of this position repeatedly emerged from a tent with a sword.
Guru.
Yes, power.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Bonus. For 10 points each, answer the following about the art of the Harlem Renaissance. A saxophonist stands atop a giant wheel in the last of Aaron Douglas's Aspects of Negro Life series in this medium. Frescoes are a type of this medium of painting directly onto a wall.
Mural.
Yes. At only age 23, this dynamic cubist created 60 paintings depicting locations like a train station and segregated dining room as part of his Migration series.
Oh, it's
Oh.
like
Isn't it
Jacob.
like Stieglitz? Isn't
no,
it?
no, no.
Oh,
I think it's like
Answer.
Jacob Lawrence.
That's right.
good job.
A bust of this person by Charles Alston became the first work by a black artist exhibited in the White House. Lei Yi Shin created a granite sculpture of this person emerging from a mountain.
Barack Obama.
Go ahead.
Barack Obama.
It's Martin Luther King. 20 points. Toss of 7. This justice declared a state of war is not a blank check for the president when it comes to the rights of the nation's citizens in a ruling against the administration in the case of Hamdi v. Rumsfeld. This justice's confirmation hearing was the first to be fully televised and followed the retirement of Potter Stewart. This author of the memoir Lazy Bee, growing up on a cattle ranch in the American Southwest, was once the majority leader of Arizona's Senate. This justice developed the undue burden standard in Planned Parenthood v. Casey's majority opinion. Playwright Arthur Miller once accosted this justice over the Bush v. Gore swing vote she provided the majority. For no points, it was first female justice of the...
O'Connor.
That's right.
Nice.
Bonus. A broadcaster launched a website called Why Bother With This Author after several publishers rejected a pseudonymously submitted chapter from this author's The Eye of the Storm. For 10 points each, name this Nobel Prize-winning author who described the disappearance of the titled German explorer in a 1957 novel.
1957. Just
Answer?
Reason.
white.
Yes.
Nice.
Patrick White is often hailed as the great unread novelist of this country, whose other authors include Miles Franklin. White set his aforementioned novel Voss in this country's outback.
Australia.
White's novel The Vivisector centers on a character with this job named Hurdle Duffield. Charles Strickland leaves his family to pursue this job in Tahiti and W. Somerset Maugham's The Moon and Sixpence.
Yeah.
Okay, artist.
30 points.
Good stuff.
Toss-up. Note to players, either the name of the class or the common name of any of its major species is acceptable. Toss-up. Ecologists are deploying a ribbed species in this class that absorbs heavy metals to clean up Atlantic salt marshes. Species in this class use dopamine in the foot protein of their byssal threads. Mytilus californianus, a member of this class, is preyed upon by starfish in tide pools in the first described keystone interaction. Ships in Lake Erie are quickly covered by a layer of invasive species in this class named for...
Like zebra mussels? Like
Yeah, I can do that.
Nice.
Nice.
Good buzz.
Like, because you could take some.
Or just mollusca.
Oh yeah, mollusca. Yeah. I was about to say sea urchin.
It's 20, by the way.
Yeah, that's power, sorry. Bonus. The Rosvi Empire continued the Butua Kingdom's tradition of building cities from this material. For 10 points each, name this material used to build conical towers at Great Zimbabwe. The bird sculptures of Great Zimbabwe were carved from the soft soap type of this general material.
Is it sandstone?
Is it just stone?
Is it one stone or the one?
Answer?
Stone?
Yes.
Okay.
In the 1600s, the Rosvi developed this battle formation in which the main force was flanked by younger troops in a pincer movement. Impi soldiers used this formation at the Battle of Kambula.
It's like the horn, like buffalo horn.
Buffalo horn?
Or you send it.
Buffalo horn.
Yes.
Nice.
The Rosvi's founder, Changamir Danbo, drove this empire and its puppet Mutapa away from gold mines. Padrao pillars were left by explorers from this empire, which Christianized the Congo in the 1500s.
Belgium.
Belgium.
No, wait. Is it France first or Belgium first?
I think it's Belgium.
I think Belgium.
Belgium?
Sure. Belgium?
It's Portugal.
Oh yeah, Portugal.
Okay.
Yeah, because like
20 points.
Yeah, Angola. I think so. Hey, that's fine.
Toss-up. A person of this name inscribed Epicurus's teachings onto a portico wall in his hometown of Inoada. A philosopher of this name was the first to suggest that meteorites were extraterrestrial and had his work on blood vessels preserved by Aristotle. A thinker with this name was supposedly beaten with a staff by his future teacher Antisthenes. The lives and opinions of eminent philosophers.
Diogenes.
That's power.
Nice.
Bonus. A stanza that repeatedly references this place ends by describing a sea journey on the highway across America. For 10 points each, name this place, which in separate instances is evoked following the lines, where you're madder than I am, and where you imitate the shade of my mother. This place's name is repeated in the third stanza of the poem Howl.
Rockland.
Third
I'm
stanza.
with you.
I'm with you. I'm with you in Rockland.
Answer?
Rockland.
Yes.
Nice.
This poet dedicated Howl to Carl Solomon, whose name opens its third stanza.
Ginsburg.
The opening of Howl goes on to describe angel-headed people of this type. An extended reflection on these title type of people is included in Norman Mailer's The White Negro, which is subtitled for them.
Shaw-headed.
Mother.
Answer?
Like a mother.
These are hipsters, 20
Oh
points.
yeah.
Oh.
And toss 10. It's not carving, but the earliest examples of this art form are in the shell and bone style. It's not painting, but some practitioners of this art form often switch between thicker futofude and thinner hosofude. A Baha'i master of this art form, Mishkin Kalam, got his surname from a tool used in it.
Calligraphy.
That's power.
Nice.
Bonus. This architect claimed that in the 1930s he happened upon a book by an author completely unknown to me by the name of Adolf Hitler and liked his ideas about architecture. For 10 points each, name this architect, who included a striking facade facing Turla Bay in his design for Finlandia Hall.
So is it like Saarinen dad? Saarinen?
It's Alvar Aalto. This architect took no commission on the Knis Tifereth synagogue in Port Chester, New York, to atone for his pro-Nazi views in the 1930s. This architect of the Glass House collaborated with Mies van der Rohe on the Seagram building.
Is it Roth?
Yeah. Roth.
Philip Johnson.
Oh.
Wait.
Nazi architect Albert Speer designed a never-constructed People's Hall with a large one of these structures. The Roman Pantheon is topped with the world's largest unreinforced concrete one of these hemispherical elements.
Dome.
Dome.
It's right for 10.
Chicago Johnson.
Alright.
And that's a half. 220 for Plymouth, 130 for Maryland.
Yeah.
We got this.
Guys, play slow.
Yeah.
The iguana.
Alright, here is toss-up 11. In 1810, Jean-Antoine Chaptal rediscovered how this commodity was successfully stored in Roman Horia. In the 1960s, Pakistan's economy was transformed by adopting the Penhamo 620 variety of this crop. Climate change has threatened a belt named for this crop in Western Australia. In the 19th century, up to 1 million tons of this crop were exported each year from Odessa. This crop was imported in great...
Wheat?
That's power.
Crazy, bro.
Makes sense.
You
So
said
it's
wheat.
Ukraine.
Yeah. Wheat.
Bonus. In electrostatics, this equation reduces to Laplace's equation if charge density is 0. For 10 points each, name this ubiquitous equation that, given a function f, is satisfied by a function whose Laplacian equals f.
Green's theorem.
This Poisson's equation. For systems with this property, the Klein-Gordon equation reduces to a screen-Poisson equation because the D'Alembert reduces to the Laplacian. Autonomous systems have this property that names a form of the Schrödinger equation that can be written as h psi equals e psi.
Time dependent.
Is it independent? I think it's independent.
Answer?
Time independent.
Yes. Poisson's equation for the Newtonian descriptions of this weakest fundamental force includes a term for the Laplacian of the scalar potential of little g.
Gravity.
20 points.
Okay, that's
Toss up. At the end of this novella's first section, its protagonist looks around for a man in a straw hat on the platform while waiting for a tram. The protagonist of this novella starts regularly seeing a barber who dyes his hair following a dream about a Dionysian stranger god. In this novella, the recently...
Death in Venice.
That's right.
Dude,
Power.
nice. You like the
Nice.
death in Venice, yeah.
I read that shit.
Bonus, a 2022 Times investigation of these businesses noted that treating an ear infection here was 5 times cheaper than in an ER. For 10 points each, name these businesses like Concentra and MedExpress that typically offer on-site x-ray and labs but are staffed by nurse practitioners rather than physicians.
Clinics.
Clinics, right?
Clinics,
Just
right.
clinics.
Clinics.
Prompt.
Health clinics.
Health.
Health clinics.
Prompt.
Um.
Hospital clinics. Like,
assigned. These are urgent care clinics.
Oh.
This 2010 healthcare bill's requirement that insurance plans cover emergencies led to an increase in urgent care clinic usage.
Obamacare.
Yeah.
Obamacare.
Yeah. The Kaiser Family Foundation found that urgent care clinics fill gaps in this Medicare program's coverage. This program, which is one of the 4 main parts of Medicare, along with inpatient, outpatient, and prescription drug coverage, provides payments to private sector health insurers.
Americans with Disabilities Act or the thing. The Americans with Disabilities.
Answer
Americans with Disabilities Act.
is Medicare Advantage, 10 points.
Okay.
Toss up. An operator name for this property is proportional to a product of Dirac gamma matrices. Gelium is a model in which a form of this property forms a uniform background. Landau quantization describes the motion of massive particles with this property as they undergo cyclotron resonance. The 2 main types of semiconductor doping are named for forms of this property. Cronin and Finch won a Nobel Prize for observations of a violation of this property and parity. Over.
Charge.
That's right. For
Yes,
10.
CP, bro.
Bonus. In the Quran, Musa watches as a servant of God, sometimes named for this color, sinks a ship to prevent its capture by a cruel king. For 10 points each, name his favorite color of Muhammad, who was draped in a hibra, bird of it, after his death. The flags of Saudi Arabia and Pakistan use this color in white.
Green.
Yeah. One of the Quran's shortest verses describes 2 dark green gardens in the Surah Ar-Rahman, a passage whose title is one of these 99 things.
No, wives. Wives of Muhammad.
Sure.
Wives?
These are names of Allah.
Oh.
According to Ibn Sa'd, Muhammad wore green while performing this act of circumambulating the Kaaba counterclockwise 7 times. This Arabic term means to encircle and is comprised of 7 ashwat.
What is it called? It's like Hijra? Is that the
Yeah.
name for going around?
I don't know if that's the name.
Answer?
Hijra.
Tawaf, 10 points.
Elias Conde.
Toss 14. A losing commander at this battle, named Megabazus, was given an insulting spindle and distaff. At this battle, Erebignus was killed by the brother of the playwright Aeschylus. After gaining fame in this battle, Cimon was elected Strategos. King Damasidimus and other Calindians were killed in this battle during the hasty retreat of a ruler of Caria. After this battle, Meridonius was appointed governor and completed a second sack of Athens. During this battle, Queen Artemisia inspired a disparaging remark by a ruler who supposedly watched...
Wait, Salamis?
That's right.
Nice.
Nice.
Is that 10 or 20?
10 points.
Yeah.
Bonus. This play's
think
protagonist
yeah.
supposedly offered the kingdom of Orangia to Hilda Wangel when they met a decade prior to its main action. For 10 points each, in this 1892 play that ends with the title character, the architect Halvard Solness, falling to his death from a church steeple.
Master Builder.
Yeah. The Master Builder is by this Norwegian playwright of A Doll's House.
Ibsen.
Yep. Other Ibsen plays depicting the unfortunate deaths of designers include this final play of his, in which the sculptor Arnold Brubeck and his model Irina die in an avalanche.
Enemy of the people.
No. It's When We Dead Awaken.
Oh yeah, try
Or
that.
he sent
When
it.
We Dead Awaken.
30 points.
Nice.
Nice.
Did I say enemy?
Toss 15. In an opera by this composer, a brass and woodwind fanfare opens a dance number depicting the construction of a city of the horizon. A judge asks, are women the equal of men, after hearing a passage about Mr. Bojangles in an opera...
Glass.
Nice.
That's power. Bonus. Answer the following about the British soldier Ord Wingate, an eccentric who wore an alarm clock as a watch for 10 points each. A survey department named for this modern-day country sponsored Wingate's quest to find Cambyses' lost army. The modest state was established primarily in this modern-day country after a war with a northern neighbor's Khedivate.
Cambyses, so like
Answer.
Greeks.
Sudan. Wingate might have been best known for operating the Chindits Special Force in this modern-day country, where American General Joseph Stilwell built the Lido Road to replace another supply route named for it.
Oh, is it like the Laos one in the
Okay.
Vietnam? Laos?
Burma.
Oh.
Wingate was reburied in this national cemetery in Virginia because he died in a plane crash alongside 5 Americans.
Yes.
Arlington?
Arlington.
10 points. Toss up. People in this profession were photographed for 30 years by Ralph Morse for life. The black upper half of one photo depicts a man in this profession named Bruce McCandless. An iconic shot of 7 people in this profession walking down a long corridor appears in a 1983 film based on Tom Wolfe's The Right Stuff. Rousseau crosses appear in pictures taken by people in this profession on a Hasselblad 500 EL, such as one depicting a man saluting a flag that is secured with pipes.
Astronaut?
That's right for 10.
Nice.
Bonus. After murdering his wife and her lover in bed, Carlo Gesualdo wrote the song Moro Lasso al Mio Duolo as part of 6 books in this genre. For 10 points each, name this genre, which Monteverdi used for 9 books of pieces.
Madrigal, I think.
Yeah, Madrigal.
Madrigal.
That's right. With Antonio Lodi, a member of this family named Alessandro, composed the madrigal O Morte while popularizing the Italian overture as head of the Neapolitan school. A later member of this family composed 555 sonatas for the harpsichord.
Is it just Bach? Bach then?
Sure.
Answer?
Bach.
Scarlatti. Near the end of the Baroque period, the role of madrigals in opera was largely replaced by these pieces. These pieces for solo voice appear within operas, oratorios, and cantatas,
Aria.
and include Dido's Lament When I Am Laid in Earth by Henry Purcell.
Aria, sir.
Aria.
That's 20 points.
Can we get a score check?
Yes. So going into toss of 17, it's 320 for Plymouth, 220 for Miralona.
Sorry, going to toss up what?
17.
Oh, 4. Let's go.
Alright, here's toss of 17. In the poem The Envoys of Aga, this person is told, let the battle mace return to your side. This person yells at a door after learning about their impending death. This person argues that death would cement the reputation of a monster that was defeated by 13 winds after a friend considers...
Gilgamesh.
No, sorry. Sparing it. The sacred prostitute Shamhat spends 2 weeks teaching this person language, though it causes animals to start fleeing from him. This person throws a bull's severed leg at a fertility goddess after his friend rejects her advances, and he dies after helping his friend kill Humbaba. Dreams about sleeping with a meteor and an axe precede the coming of this person, whom the goddess Aruru creates to placate a despotic king of Uruk. For 10 points, name this companion of Gilgamesh.
Enkidu.
That's right.
Nice.
Bonus. The only firm record of a woman voting in this modern-day state in the 18th century was Lydia Chapman Taft, the widow of Uxbridge's largest taxpayer. For 10 points each, name the state, the birthplace of a woman who advised her husband to remember the ladies.
That's,
Abigail
where's Abbott?
Adams.
Massachusetts. They're from Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
Unmarried women in this state who owned property were allowed to vote until a campaign against petticoat electors removed that right in 1807. The state's first female governor was Christine Todd Whitman.
Is it a Western state or no?
Answer?
Cali.
Cali.
It's New Jersey. Centuries before the 19th Amendment, women helped choose the chiefs who represented local tribes at the council of this Native American Confederacy. The Oneida and Mohawk were members of this confederacy.
The Iroquois.
20 points.
Chill.
Toss of 18. The miracle windows of this city's Trinity Chapel depict miraculous events such as the curing of Henry Fordwich's madness. This city was the northernmost start of the Via Francigena route, once used by Sigeric the Serious. Christopher Marlowe was born in this city, which lends its name to the horse movement, quicker than a trot but slower than a gallop. A man who had earlier issued the constitutions of Clarendon made a barefoot pilgrimage to this city. Justin Welby is the current holder of a title name for this city.
It's Constantinople.
No, sorry. Where in 1170, 4 knights committed murder after the king asked, will no one rid me of this turbulent priest? For 10 points, name this city that became a pilgrimage site following the murder of its archbishop, Thomas Becket.
Canterbury.
That's right.
Oh, because the horse thing is a canter. Oh. That's real long.
Bonus. 20% of industrial river pollution worldwide is caused by the textile industry's production and use of this compound. For 10 points each, name this compound. The beginning of organic chemistry is often dated to Adolf von Bayer's 1870 synthesis of this natural purple dye used to color blue jeans.
No.
Wait, no. That's denim. Okay, denim.
Answer?
Denim.
Indigo.
Oh.
Today, indigo is made from petroleum, formaldehyde, and this other highly toxic compound. It consists of a carbon atom single bonded to hydrogen and triple bonded to nitrogen.
So, cyanide?
Cyanide?
Acetonitrile.
Don't be offended.
Acetonitrile?
No, this is hydrogen cyanide. Textile factories also pollute sodium dithionite, a carcinogen used as one of these chemical species to convert white indigo into blue indigo. Green chemists prefer safer examples of these species, like ascorbate.
Yes,
Oh.
solvents, just solvents.
Yeah.
Is it solvent?
I think it is.
Okay.
Solvent.
chemistry.
Solvent.
These are reducing agents. No points there.
Green chemistry. You just don't understand.
Toss 19. This author kicked Aleister Crowley down the stairs during a magical feud that had as members of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. One poem by this author repeats 15 apparitions have I seen, the worst a coat upon a coat hanger. A poem by this author based on a tarot card laments decrepit age that has been tied to me as to a dog's tail. Another poem by this author describes his heart fastened to a dying animal. That poem by this author describes an aged man as a paltry...
Yates.
Sorry for 10.
Nice.
Bonus. Because of one author's frequent use of this word, William Gladstone hypothesized that the ancient Greeks may have perceived colors very differently. For 10 points each, name this compound word used in an epithet describing the sea, often when it is stormy. Berlin and Kay hypothesized that this word was used because cultures developed color words for blue last.
It's like the sea was. What did Homer call the sea?
I forgot.
Like red,
Answer?
right? Red.
This is wine dark. In addition to the epithet wine dark sea, Homer used the color epithet gray-eyed to describe this Greek goddess of wisdom, represented by the owl.
Athena.
Homer describes this goddess of the dawn as rosy-fingered.
Eos.
She turned her lover Tithonus
Eos.
into... Yeah,
Nice.
20 points. Last toss-up. This number gives an alternate name for Robinson triangles, which comprise a variation of the Penrose Roma tilings.
5.
Say that again?
5.
No. In this number's base, any number has a unique standard form that contains only the binary digits with no consecutive ones. For n greater than 1, the nth Lucas number equals this number to the power of quantity n minus 1, rounded to the nearest integer. In a regular pentagon, the ratio between the diagonal and side length is equal to this number. This number is the positive solution to the equation x squared equals x plus 1. This number equals the mean of 1 and the square root of 5. For an name this number that is roughly the common ratio of the Fibonacci sequence.
Golden ratio.
That's right.
Nice.
And your bonus. An author in this novel kills off many of his characters in a fire after suffering burnout. For 10 points each, name this novel whose title characters are the hack author Pedro Camacho and a relative of the protagonist whom he attempts to marry.
Send it.
Aunt Julia, the scriptwriter.
Yes. In Mario Vargas Llosa's novel Aunt Julia and the scriptwriter, Camacho writes soap operas for this broadcast medium. A 1938 broadcast of The War of the Worlds via this medium is set in mass panic.
Wait, radio? Just radio.
Yeah, like the radio.
In one of Camacho's dramas, a policeman dies in a fire before later reappearing and undergoing this action. This action partly titles a story in which Esteban's body prompts villagers to make some massive
Drowns in a
foes.
puddle, right?
Like drowning.
That's 30 points.
That's not Peruvian lit.
And that's the end of the game. Final score, Plymouth 430, Miraloma 220.
Alright.
We have to go do.
Yeah, I don't know what the other parts were.
No, I was thinking of that too.
Everybody
I
went
just
to
know the
look
parts
at it.
exist.
They're sitting on the-
But I was like, they said corridor, so
But
it's
they
like,
said they're walking, yeah, so that's.
Have you taken a look at all at the live stream? Just make sure it's going.
another day, another sleigh.
Alright, so I think we are just about ready to get started with round 7. We have Rockford Auburn and Richard Montgomery. I am Mike Bentley, the moderator of this round. This round is sponsored by the University of Minnesota Quiz Bowl team, who have the following message: good luck to both teams. Remember to follow at UMN Quiz Bowl on Twitter and have some rootin' tootin' fun. So thanks to them. And is everyone ready? We can get started with Toss-Up 1. Toss-Up. A generalization of this function provides the foundation of the Lie group Lie algebra correspondence. This function of negative r over a constant times the Bohr radius appears in the radial equation of the hydrogen atom. The sum of this function of beta times total energy over each microstate comprises the canonical partition function. The general solution to the time-independent Schrödinger equation includes this function's complex form, which is also used to represent phase factors. The proportion of remaining particles at time t equals this function of t over tau, which is a function of half-life in a model of decay named for this function. Remember-Simmons function that is the inverse of the natural logarithm.
Exponential.
That's correct.
What a toss.
I was going to say natural.
I was thinking log.
Bonus. Regifistone and Registemma ornamentation traced back to Etruscan pottery depicting these figures holding garlands. For 10 points each, name these chubby winged baby boys that appear in Renaissance paintings and are often conflated with depictions of Cupid.
Do they look pooty?
Pooty or cherub?
Pooty.
Wait.
It's like the
Pooty,
pooty.
yeah.
Pooty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An early Renaissance sculpture with putti was one of these artworks by Jacopo della Quercia that depicts Ilaria del Caretto. An Etruscan example of these artworks in terracotta depicts two spouses reclining on a couch.
Just
That's
in
like-
terracottas.
What is that? Just a sculpture.
Answer?
Relief.
No, these are sarcophagus.
Okay.
This Renaissance sculptor referred to putti as spiritelli in works like the Cavalcanti Annunciation. This sculptor's bronze David was the first freestanding male nude since antiquity.
Donatello.
That's right, for 20 points. Toss-up. A performance of this piece at the 1925 Paris Exposition was choreographed by Louis Fuller and used a piece of fabric covering the ground for certain effects. Critic Pierre Lalo complained that he neither saw, nor heard, nor felt the title entity of this piece at its premiere. This piece's subtitle calls it a set of 3 symphonic sketches, and it's...
Lemire.
That's right, for power. Bonus. Mary McLeod Bouthene was part of this president's informal black cabinet. For 10 points each, name this president, whose executive order 9066 targeted Americans of Japanese ancestry.
FDR.
Yeah. Another member of FDR's black cabinet, Robert C. Weaver, became the first African American to hold an official cabinet post when Lyndon Johnson made him head of this Great Society agency. This agency's Hope 6 program adhered to the idea of defensible space.
Housing and urban development.
Housing and urban development.
That's right.
Nice.
Edgar D. Brown agitated for better treatment of black people and at this New Deal agency headed by Robert Fechner. This agency's cadre of young workers built numerous fire lookout towers and dams.
So
CCC.
CCC.
That's 30.
Nice. Probably 0 that.
really?
Yeah.
Toss-up. Long suppressed footage of school children playing following this event is included in James Jones' documentary about its lost tapes. A Nobel laureate's book on this event describes how authorities were unable to find a pair of shoes that fit a dying firefighter. Following this event, so-called biorobots spent...
Chernobyl.
That's right, for power.
Selexievich.
Bonus. A 1955 Angel Flores essay argues that a literary style named for this adjective is of Hispanic origin. For 10 points each, name this adjective that exemplifies a style of Latin American realism, which frequently depicts supernatural events in works of the fiction of Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
Magical.
Yes. Among the precursors to magical realism cited by Flores is this German author of the 1817 story The Sandman, in which Nathaniel falls in love with an automaton.
Hoffman.
Yep. Flores' essay notably makes no mention of this Cuban author's 1949 novel The Kingdom of This World, despite its preface's discussion of the similar concept of the marvelous real.
Carpentier.
30 points. Toss-up. In this novel's last section, the definition of a maggot of extinct fly that once bred in mammoths suggests a work has an alternate narrator. A girl who talks to spirits in a barn drowns in an icy lake in this novel after her blind date rejects her. Sybil is hostile towards this novel's protagonist, who inspires his neighbor with stories about a gay king escaping his homeland and settling in New Y. The assassin Jacob Gratis may have killed a poet in this novel due to mistaking him...
Pale Fire.
That's right.
10.
For 10 points. Bonus for Richard Montgomery. Whoosh Innovations developed a pressurized tube that shoots these fish over dams so that they can travel upstream to reproduce. For 10 points each, name this fish common to rivers in the Pacific Northwest with pinkish red meat.
Salmon.
The largest Pacific species of salmon is named for this tribe native to the Lower Columbia River between Washington and Oregon. This tribe names Boeing's H-47 transportation helicopter as well as warm westerly winds.
Chinook.
I think so, yeah.
Chinook.
That's right. This easternmost part of the Bering Sea hosts the largest salmon fishery in the world. The proposed Pebble Mine is near this bay north of the Alaska Peninsula.
Go.
Aleut Bay.
Bristol Bay, 20 points.
Oh, yeah, that's so
Plus 5. The ATU 700 classification concerns characters with this quality, like Turkey's Erkenek and France's Pousset, who steals 7 league boots. A peasant with this quality is betrothed to Princess Hunkamunka in a Henry Fielding play.
Ooh, is that right? Eloquent.
What's that?
Eloquent.
No, sorry. That'd be a fun answer line. That son of Thomas of the Mountain with this most notable quality is granted a hat of knowledge by the Queen of Fairies, his godmother. That character travels to the court of King Arthur and lends his name to a P.T. Barnum performer. After an emperor's son cuts his finger, people with this quality war over which end of an egg to crack. A race of people who tie down the protagonist of a 1726 satire on the beach has this quality, as do Thumbelina and Tom Thumb. For 10 points, give this quality of the Lilliputians in Gulliver's Travels.
Like little or small?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Good work.
Bonus. 2 phases form in a separatory funnel in the liquid form of this technique. For 10 points each, in this process that separates chemicals based on their solubility, caffeine is purified out of coffee beans using this technique.
Extraction.
Yep. The aqueous phase is easy to pour out the bottom of a separatory funnel, since water's value for this quantity, 1 gram per milliliter, is greater than most organic solvents.
I mean density. Gram per milliliter.
That's density.
Yeah. Density.
Yep.
Okay.
On the other hand, the top phase must be carefully removed using this technique of moving liquid upwards using negative pressure. The 2 steps of pipetting are this process and expulsion.
Like, it's like sucking it up. I don't know what it's called.
What is the answer?
It's vacuuming.
Aspiration. 20.
Okay. That has a word.
Toss of 6. Fluorescent aptamers, like FAST, are used as genetic reporters in organisms that have this trait, since GFP's fluorophore cannot form in them. Biogasification relies on bacteria with this trait. Organisms with this trait live in the mud at the bottom of a Winogradsky column. A mass extinction of organisms with this trait 2.4 billion years ago coincided...
Like anaerobic.
That's power.
Nice.
Oh, that makes sense.
Oh, great oxygenation.
Bonus. Naval innovations from this country include the first stern-mounted rudders and bulkhead partitions that allow leaking ships to stay afloat. For 10 points each, name this modern-day country whose tower ships were used to pour fire onto enemies during naval warfare.
China. Direct.
Yep. During naval battles, the Song dynasty used this technology to power fire lances. By the 14th century, this Chinese invention was being used in European firearms.
Gunpowder.
This Muslim mariner led a 1405 naval expedition to the Western Oceans that included stops in Sri Lanka and East Africa.
That's true. You're right. Yeah, Zhenghua.
Yes. 30 points.
You almost did that.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, thank you.
Toss up 7. Women should form religious retirements to engage in this activity, according to Mary Astell's serious proposal. A treatise on this activity that claimed that women naturally enjoy playing with dolls was criticized by a philosopher whose first published work was a 1787 set of thoughts on this activity for daughters. The Savoyard priest appears in a book on this activity that focuses on the title character's bride to be Sophie in its book 5. This activity should create a natural man, according to Jean-Jacques Rousseau's treatise Emile. Mary...
Education.
That's right for 10.
This activity.
Bonus. Paul Samuelson's revealed preference theory argues that observing these people's purchases was an accurate indicator of their utility function. For 10 points each, name these people the purchasers of goods or service for personal use, like similarly named customers.
Consumers.
Yep. Samuelson and Nordhaus's book Economics followed this British economist's principles of economics, which introduced the idea of consumer surplus. He taught John Maynard Keynes.
So, someone like I don't know who talking.
Answer.
Pareto.
Alfred Marshall. Consumer choice theory explains the backward bending supply curve as workers engage in this practice more as pay increases. Conspicuous consumption is criticized in Thorstein Veblen's book on the theory of a class
Leisure.
defined by this behavior.
Okay. Leisure.
20 points. Toss-up. In this country, Big Billions Days was started by an e-commerce giant acquired by Walmart in 2018. This country now has the lowest mobile bandwidth cost in the world thanks to heavy subsidies from Jio, a subsidiary of Reliance Industries. Flipkart is based in this country, whose Seeps campus was the first of its thousands of software hubs. In 2023, Hindenburg Research alleged widespread financial fraud at this country's massive Adani Group. Tata Consultancy is an IT giant.
India.
That's right, for 10.
Nice.
I should have buzzed.
So I don't need because I remember this because he's like super rich and stuff.
Bonus. This poet wrote, "Who can the nymph's confusion guess when Lysander fails to seduce the nymph Chloris?" in this author's poem, The Disappointment. For 10 points each, famous Restoration poet. This poet also wrote a novel about an enslaved prince separated from his lover Imoinda.
Opera pen.
A nymph comments, "If all the world and love were young, these pretty pleasures might me move." While rejecting a suitor in this author's poem, the nymphs reply to the shepherd.
Who wrote that? Raleigh.
Answer.
Raleigh.
Yes. The narrator reminisces about the courtship of Elizabeth and Leicester and laments that the nymphs are departed while walking along the Thames in this author's poem, The Wasteland.
T.S. Eliot.
3 points.
Oh my god.
Toss-up 9. Novels about characters in this profession were popularized with Erskine Childer's The Riddle of the Sands. A lamplighter named Toby Esterhazy features in a novel about a member of this profession who has retired from an organization nicknamed the Circus. A salesman who takes up this other profession plays an alcoholic game of checkers against...
Spine.
Yes, it's power. Nice.
Spina.
But that's brain breed.
Bonus. Description acceptable. This result was achieved with the most notable use of Katie Bowman et al.'s chirp algorithm for deconvolution. For 10 points each, describe this 2019 result achieved by processing EHT radio wave observations. This result was published in the fourth of a series of 6 papers whose fifth entry describes its asymmetric ring.
Picture of a black hole.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Direct.
Yep.
Nice.
The dark spot in the center of the image of M87 star contains this region of space in which light orbits the black hole. There are no stable freefall orbits that cross this region, whose radius is 3/2 the Schwarzschild radius.
Event horizon?
Yeah.
Event horizon?
It's the photon sphere. The Schwarzschild radius is the radius of this horizon, the boundary beyond which light cannot escape a black hole.
Event horizon.
That's correct for 20.
Wait.
And toss up 10. This island was legendarily settled by a race of dwarfs who exhumed dead bodies and wrapped them in fresh cloth as part of the Fama di Hana ceremony. According to a 1726 book by Charles Johnson, former slaves joined the pirate James Mission on this island to found the utopian community of Libertalia. This island's epic poem, Ibonia, was transmitted via a language spoken by the Sakalava people that is...
Madagascar.
That's right, for power. Bonus. In order to obtain grazia, these people are advised to learn a certain nonchalance that disguises the fact that they are performing difficult tasks. For 10 points each, name these people who should demonstrate sprezzatura according to a book titled for them by Baldassare Castiglione.
Like opera singers? Or no? Oh, I don't know. I mean,
Answer.
opera singers.
They're courtiers. Castiglione desired for courtiers to have mastery over both Latin and this other classical language spoken by Aristotle.
Greek.
Ancient courtiers may have had titles like Master of Squires or this position that Sargon the Great held under Zabala. In Greek myth, a boy kidnapped by an eagle from Mount Ida replaced Hebe in this position.
Cupbearer.
20 points. And that's the half. Close game. It's 180 for Rockford Auburn A, 210 for Richard Montgomery.
Why does that make him
Yes.
Norm signals. I thought princesses.
Second half here. So it's up. We're going to toss up 11. Toss up. These substances are regenerated by combustion after a layer of carbon inactivates or coats them. In a packed bed, these substances are ground into pellets and immobilized on porous alumina or silica supports. The main unit operation at an oil refinery uses these substances to crack petroleum. Zeolites act as adsorbents and as these substances, which are
Like catalysts.
power.
Nice.
Bonus. Labyrinthitis causes motion sickness because it inflames the bony canals that transmit paralymph through the structure. For 10 points each, name this section of a larger body organ, the home of the body's vestibular system. Motion sickness occurs when the eyes in this structure pass contradictory signals to the brain.
It's my inner ear, right?
It's ear.
But it's a section of.
Vestibular system, so
Answer.
semilunar canals.
What?
Semilunar canals. Semicircular canals. Semicircular canals.
No, just one inner ear. The vestibular system and the eye synchronize with one of these involuntary motions. Gagging is another example of these rapid responses to stimuli that do not require brain involvement.
Reflex.
Yep. Antiemetics treat motion sickness by antagonizing this compound's receptors. Fluoxetine prevents this compound from being reabsorbed by presynaptic neurons.
Oh, serotonin?
Oh.
I don't know serotonin.
That's right. So that is 20 points.
I think it is what can I
Wait, you also directed something that wasn't even the thing that would have been.
Alright, tells 12.
Okay.
In a play by this author, a man chopping wood complains that he studied to be a pastor of souls before becoming a chaplain. The character created by this author gives a silent scream in an example of the gestus technique and warns soldiers against complaining in the Song of Great Capitulation.
Brecht.
That's right, power.
Brecht.
Bonus, in this passage, Jesus gives the parable, "Can the blind lead the blind? Shall they both not fall into the ditch?" to warn against the dangers of an ignorant teacher. For 10 points each, name this passage in Luke chapter 6, in which Jesus gives 4 Beatitudes. It is often compared in theme to the Sermon on the Mount, though it is given in a different location.
Okay, items now.
Summon on the.
Answer.
Sermon in the temple.
Sermon on the Plain.
Okay.
Jesus instructs in the Sermon on the Plain, "And unto him that smiteth thee on one of these body parts, offer also the other," thus beginning the Christian doctrine of turning the other one of these body parts.
Cheek.
After delivering the Sermon on the Plain, Jesus traveled to this city where Matthew was a tax collector. According to Mark, Jesus healed a paralyzed man in this home city of Peter.
Bethany? Sure. Bethany?
This is Capernaum.
Okay.
10 points. Toss up. After a rout in the state, Union officer Jefferson C. Davis murdered his superior William Bull Nelson. An acoustic shadow led to Don Carlos Buell's troops arriving late to a battle in the state.
Tennessee.
No, sorry. leading to his replacement by William Rosencrans. Edmund Kirby Smith and Braxton Bragg feuded throughout an 1862 Confederate campaign in the state that turned back after the Battle of Perryville. A senator from the state proposed an unalterable westward extension of the Missouri Compromise line in the Crittenden Compromise. Illinois Senator Stephen Douglas spearheaded the Compromise of 1850 with this state's great compromiser, Henry Clay. Nepomucema State home to a log cabin where Abraham Lincoln was born.
Kentucky.
That's right. Bonus. This novel sold 500,000 copies in France following its publication, possibly tipping elections against the Communist Party. For 10 points each, name this 1940 novel that for years was only known through an imperfect English translation from German by Daphne Hardy. In this novel, the imprisoned protagonist declares, "You and I can make mistakes, but not the party." Answer?
Count of Monte Cristo.
This is Darkness at Noon. Darkness at Noon was written by this Hungarian-born author of The Gladiators.
Kessler.
Other prisoners in Darkness at Noon include this elderly revolutionary who has been subjected to solitary confinement for 20 years. He shares his name with a Washington Irving character who sleeps through the American Revolution.
Rip Van Winkle.
20
I
points.
was like, okay.
Toss up 14. The Breslovers sect inaugurated a tradition on this holiday of making a pilgrimage to the Ukrainian city of Uman, which since 2020 has been a national holiday in Ukraine. An artist known as Haggai is best known for the images and light verses he created for greeting cards or tovas sent on this holiday. Some celebrants of this holiday throw bread into water to cast...
Rosh Hashanah.
That's right, for 10.
See, it's funny.
Bonus. In this scientist's picture, operators but not state vectors are time-dependent. For 10 points each, name this physicist whose uncertainty principle describes simultaneous measurement of position and momentum.
Heisenberg.
Correct.
Heisenberg.
Yep. There exists an uncertainty principle for each pair of variables with this relationship, like position and momentum. Two variables with this relationship are dual under the Fourier transform.
Couple. Couple.
No, these are conjugate. In general, uncertainty principles bound the product of the standard deviation of two operators below by 1/2 the magnitude of this quantity for their commutator. This quantity for a Hermitian operator A is calculated by placing A between a bra and a ket.
This quantity.
Like superposition?
I was thinking Hamiltonian.
Answer?
Hamiltonian.
This is the expectation value. 10 points.
Sorry.
Toss 15. In the Beverly sideboard, an emblematic piece of furniture from this country's Memphis group of designers, a lone red light bulb protrudes from a steel tube. A sportabout version of the AMC Hornet was designed by a fashion house from this country, known for its 2010s style of post-gender geek chic. Women's Tales is a short film anthology series by a fashion brand from this country called Miu Miu. A designer...
Japan.
No, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
A designer from this country made a jungle green dress for Jennifer Lopez 3 years after her brother and fellow designer was murdered in Miami. The wasp-like form of the red MP5 inspired the name of an iconic brand of scooters from this country, the Vespa. Nepomucema's country, home to fashion houses such as Versace and Gucci.
Italy.
Yes. Bonus. The overture to Ruslan and Ludmilla introduces a descending theme on the scale to represent the sorcerer Chernomir. For 10 points each, name this hexatonic scale with no leading tone that is also used to open the orchestral suite Scheherazade. Starting on C, the notes in this scale are C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp.
It's like almost a whole tone scale?
G major?
No, it's
Answer.
like a whole tone scale, but it's missing the top
Yeah, whole
note.
10 scales, right?
Okay.
Scheherazade is by this member of the Mighty Five, whose other compositions include Flight of the Bumblebees.
Rimsky-Korsakov.
The trombones introduce a whole tone theme to contrast with the pentatonic main theme of the finale of a symphony by this other Russian composer. The second movement of that B minor second symphony by this composer is written in an extremely fast 1/1 time signature.
It's Russian.
Shostakovich.
Sissi.
Answer?
Sure.
Sissi.
Is Borodin, 20 points.
Oh, well.
Okay.
Score check.
Yeah, after toss-up 15, it is 240 for Rockford Auburn, 300 for Richard Montgomery, and we're going into toss-up 16.
I have the three majors. Fine arts, I think.
No, but you were thinking the right answer.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going on to toss-up 16. Everyone ready? All right. A parody church dedicated to a participant in this activity worships D10S and has a calendar beginning in 1960. An Andrew Lloyd Webber musical about Northern Irish teens is titled for a nickname for this activity attributed to Peter Doherty. Andres Escobar was murdered due to a mistake made during this activity. The 100 Hours War began with violent clashes during...
Soccer.
That's right, for power.
Nice. And then after this game, we get to know who won the game.
Bonus. Frank Chin argued that this genre was a literary descendant of the Confession, and it does not exist in Chinese literature. For 10 points each, name this genre of books like Li Lai Hayslip's When Heaven and Earth Change Places. Contemporary books in this genre include I Am Malala and Dreams from My Father.
Memoirs.
Yes. In a letter to Chin, Maxine Hong Kingston admitted that her publisher threatened to turn this 1976 book, in which her mother is represented by the lady scholar Brave Orchid, into a more traditional memoir.
I know the Woman Warrior. I know other stuff, but we're gonna go with the Woman Warrior.
Yep. Kingston imagines herself as Fa Mu Lan, training on a mountain filled with these animals in the second chapter of The Woman Warrior. Amy Chua described her strict parenting in a 2011 battle hymn titled for this animal.
Tiger.
30 points. Toss up 17. In the Rodora, Ralph Waldo Emerson stated that beauty is its own excuse for this specific action. The last stanza of Archibald MacLeish's poem Ars Poetica claims that poems should not mean but
B.
power.
So real.
To be.
To be
Yes.
or not to. Maybe that's where they were
That
going.
was where I was going.
Oh my god.
Bonus.
Okay.
For 10 points each, answer the following about conflicts between Christian and pagan thought in the Roman Empire. This 3rd century CE emperor earned his epithet by converting from Christianity to Neoplatonism. This emperor died at the Battle of Samara while invading the Sassanid Empire.
Julian the Pagan? Or Julian the Apostate?
Yeah, I only have Julian the Apostate
I think
here,
Julian
so...
the Pagan is something he's called sometimes.
We can protest.
Okay, so I'm going to reject it right now, but I'll note the protest. This emperor's closure of the Platonic Academy is often seen as the end of Neoplatonism. Procopius's Secret History is an important source on this Byzantine emperor and lawgiver who is known as the Great.
Justinian the Great.
Yes. In Alexandria, this pagan philosopher died at the hands of an angry Christian mob after being accused of bewitching Orontes. This polymath may have edited parts of Ptolemy's Almagest.
Hypatia of Alexandria.
Yes, so that's 20. Let me note the protest.
I love her.
My dad loves her.
Okay.
Oh,
Easy.
For your dad.
Alright, toss up 18. The specific gravity of this material can be calculated from the oven-dry and green forms of its weight. The relative orientations of layers of this material differentiate glulam from the cross-laminated form of this material. The indentation hardness of this material is measured with a steel ball in a test developed by Gabriel Janka. Your Star Net exemplifies a recent trend to build skyscrapers from the mass form of this material.
Wood?
That's right. For
Nice.
Wood. Timber. Bonus. A popular touring production of this opera in 1952 had a cast including Cab Calloway and Maya Angelou for 10 points each. Name this George Gershwin opera set on Catfish Row, which features arias such as Summertime.
Porgy and Bess.
Bess.
This artist refused to play Porgy in Otto Preminger's filmed version of Porgy and Bess because he refused to spend the entire movie on his knees. This artist of the Banana Boat song helped popularize an entire genre with his million-selling 1956 album Calypso.
The toughie.
Answer?
Smith.
This is Harry Belafonte. This composer fumed, Gershwin does not even know what an opera is after seeing Porgy. This American composer's own operas include Four Saints in Three Acts, with libretto by Gertrude Stein.
What's the size that you got?
Bernstein?
Answer?
Bernstein?
This is Virgil Thompson. 10 points.
Oh, wrong guy, sorry.
Toss up 19. August Mal names 4 periods of painting after this location, whose ornamental fourth style is exemplified by dining room frescoes patronized by the Vetius brothers. In an artwork from this location, a soldier stares at his reflection in a shield below an emperor reaching out from a chariot. A statue of a dancing faun names a house in this location that contains...
The Forum.
No, sorry.
Pompeii.
That's right.
Pompeii. The same
For 10.
city.
Bonus. George Wilson Pearson called an idea about this place a Pandora's box of trouble to historians. For 10 points each, name this place. The title's a thesis put forth by Frederick Jackson Turner that argued that American values emerged from a pioneer culture of westward expansion.
Frontier.
American frontierism evolved from this earlier two-word idea coined by John O'Sullivan that Americans had the right to spread their society across the West.
Manifest Destiny.
A historian from this country formulated the metropolitan hinterland thesis as an explanation of this country's expansion. The book In the Skin of a Lion explores the garrison mentality that dominates this country's literature.
I was thinking Australia, but I have no idea.
It could
Or
be
Russia,
Australia.
maybe.
Which one?
Answer?
Russia.
Russia.
This is Canada, 20 points.
Seems close.
And last toss-up. In the 17th century, one of these institutions bankrupted Crispina Perez, a woman from modern-day Guinea-Bissau. The Konkani population was a common target of one of these institutions established in Goa in 1560. Another of these institutions would sometimes bestow a paper capirote on people...
The Catholic mission?
No, sorry. No. To humiliate them and employed a device called the strappado. Some of the 28 articles drafted by a leader of one of these institutions allowed for the use of torture against Marranos. Following a tribunal, these institutions might subject people to an ordeal called an auto de fe. The first head of one branch of this institution was Tomás de Torquemada. For imposing these institutions, one of which in Spain sought to stamp out heretics.
Inquisition.
That's right.
Didn't expect that, did you?
Bonus, as a boy, this adept farmer is given 10 apple trees, 13 pear trees, 40 fig trees, and 50 vine rows by his father. For 10 points each, name his hero who wins an archery contest against a group of suitors after returning home to Ithaca.
Odysseus.
Won a foot race against this other Greek hero when Athens made him trip. This warrior is often referred to as the Locrian holder of his name to distinguish him from another of the Achaeans.
Glaucus?
Ajax.
Oh, Ajax would also make sense.
Yeah.
Ajax.
Prompt.
I don't know which one.
Greater.
The greater.
The lesser.
It's always the lesser.
Odysseus wins a discus throwing contest on this fictional island, which is often equated with Corfu. Odysseus recounts his wanderings at a banquet held by Alcinous on this home of Nausicaa.
Where does Nausicaa live?
Kaya? I don't know.
No, it's not real.
I don't know.
Answer?
Yeah.
This is Phaeacia. That's 10 points. And the end of the game. So final score is 290 for Rockford Auburn, 410 for Richmond Montgomery. Protest does not matter.
Good game.
Good game, bro.
Right, Victor said the stream sounds good. So.
Okay.
Guess what the mission? No.
to round 8 of the 2023 PACE NSC. This packet is sponsored by Gannon Evans, who has the following message. Make some memories with your friends this weekend. Seniors, congratulations on your accomplishments. If you're interested in collegiate quiz bowl, check out the Academic Competition Federation, or ACF. Thanks to Gannon for sponsoring, also for being the head editor of this year's set. My name is Mike Bentley. I'll be moderating. We have Merritt Loma and Woodlands. Do a quick buzzer check. Okay. Is everyone ready to get started?
Yep.
All right. Here we go with toss up number 1. While debating literature with the farmer Kandinsky, this author proposed a 4th and 5th dimension of writing without tricks or cheating. This author advised writing one true sentence and frequently depicted restless men at night as part of his nada principle. This author popularized the term moment of truth in English from his study of bullfighting called Death in the Afternoon. This author's theory of omission is visualized by an iceberg. A 6-word story attributed to this author reads...
Hemingway.
That's right for 10. Bonus. Answer the following about literary mongooses for 10 points each. The mongoose Rikki Tikki Tavi saves a family living in India from 2 cobras in a story from this author's Jungle Book.
Kipling.
Yep. Derek Walcott wrote that the plots are forced, the prose sedate and silly in the poem The Mongoose, which he wrote as part of a vicious feud with this author of A Bend in the River.
Yeah,
Naipaul.
In this 2007 novel, a mongoose helps protect a sci-fi obsessed teen from a fuku curse when he falls in love with the prostitute Iban.
Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde.
30 points. Toss up. This capital social system divided status between Willem and Mushkenum in slave-like wardom. An uprising against the city by Rim Sin damaged the power of its leader Samsu Iluna. Much of what is known about one king of this city comes from letters the king wrote to Sin Idanum, found in Larsa. Prominent structures in this city included the Isaglia Temple. The Louvre stela from the city records a series of if-then statements, such as, if a man commits a...
Babylon.
That's right, for 10.
That's how we're alright.
Bonus. Nero once had a prisoner executed by reenacting this figure's death, which backfired when he fell next to his imperial couch. For 10 points each, name the son of Daedalus who fell to his death when the sun's heat melted the wax of his wings.
Icarus.
Martial records that Laurellus suffered the fate of this titan, except that a Caledonian boar was substituted for a vulture. This titan gave a sacrifice of bones wrapped in fat.
Prometheus.
Yep. Tertullian mentions an execution reenacting the gruesome fate of Attis, the lover of this goddess. Depending on versions, Zeus, Artemis, or this goddess turned Atalanta and Hippomenes into lions.
I think this is Hera. Hera?
This is Cybele.
Oh.
20 points. Toss of 3. While performing this role, Maria Callas's hair caught on fire. Leontine Price played this role as the first black singer in a televised opera. This character, based on a role in a Sardou play, sings about a cottage in Non la sospiri la nostra casetta. A singer reappeared on stage 3 extra times while playing this role because stagehands had replaced a mattress with a trampoline. This character yells, "This is this character's kiss," while stabbing a man. This character's lover sings I Lucivan la Stelle as he writes a letter to this character while waiting for execution. This singer of Vici d'Arte jumps...
Tosca?
Say that again?
Tosca?
That's right.
Oh, that's her name?
10 points. Bonus. This politician is overseeing $1.2 trillion in spending from the bipartisan infrastructure bill. For 10 points each, name is current Secretary of Transportation. This openly gay former mayor of South Bend, Indiana, ran for president in 2020.
Buttigieg?
Buttigieg called $225,000 a rounding error for this rail company after a derailment dumped 100,000 gallons of hazardous waste in East Palestine, Ohio.
Norfolk Southern? Yeah, Norfolk Southern?
Yep. Norfolk Southern has been criticized for spending $10 million in this practice in 2022 instead of on rail maintenance. In this practice, companies purchase from their own shareholders to concentrate ownership or avoid capital gains taxes.
I don't know.
Buybacks? Stock buybacks?
Stock buybacks?
30 points.
Nice.
Toss of 4. In Rutherford spectroscopy, modeling this effect with a potential that decays as 1 over r times e to the minus r prevents the cross-section from diverging. Adding this effect to a helium atom's Hamiltonian reduces the variational parameter from 2 to 27 over 16. This effect is estimated by adding multiples of 0.3, 0.35, 0...
Like nuclear attraction? Like
No.
nuclear...
or 1 at quantum numbers n and n-1, then subtracting the sum from atomic number to give z effective when using Slater's rules. This effect and orbital penetration explain why ionization energy decreases down a group. The lanthanide contraction occurs because 4f electrons do not participate in this effect. For an Poiseuille's effect, in which core electrons block the nucleus's tug on valence electrons.
Degeneracy?
No, this is shielding. Electron shielding. So it goes down. We go to toss number 5. A leader of these people who prohibited the use of the enemy's tools led an anti-Christian campaign where a figure of Jesus was scalped at Senecu. Men over 25 who survived an attack on these people had their feet cut off, prompting activists hundreds of years later to saw off the leg of an equestrian statue. These people were forced to pay taxes in cotton to Juan de Onate and traditionally entered their doorless homes through holes in their roof. Girls from the Ocoma branch of these people were sent to convents in Mexico City 12 years after a 1680 revolt led by Pope. Some of these people traditionally occupied Sky City on a 365-foot-tall mesa. For example, name these people of the southwestern U.S. who are named for their adobe villages.
Like Pueblo?
That's right. Bonus. The Adams Express Company unknowingly assisted this man in 1849. For 10 points each, name this man who reenacted his 27-hour-long trip to Philadelphia's Vigilance Committee in a panorama show where he emerged from a certain object.
I have no clue.
Answer?
Smith?
This is Henry Box Brown. A metal replica of Henry Box Brown's shipping crate is located in this city's Canal Walk. This city's Monument Avenue once displayed a statue of Jefferson Davis, who governed from this longest-serving capital of the Confederacy.
Richmond?
Yeah.
Richmond?
Yep. Late in life, Brown and his family performed as Jubilee Singers. The Fisk Jubilee Singers raised funds for a college named for a commissioner of this Reconstruction agency, headed by Oliver O. Howard.
Freedmen's Bureau.
It might be. Freedmen's Bureau?
That's 20.
Right.
Toss of 6. The case Jacob and Young's Inc. v. Kent established how the doctrine of substantial performance for these things can be used in place of the perfect tender doctrine. The mirror image rule concerns these things. The parole evidence rule governs which evidence is admissible into a dispute over one of these things, which originally come out of a meeting of minds.
Like a contract.
That's power.
Nice.
Bonus. The work done by a non-isothermal one of these thermodynamic processes equals the change in the product of pressure and volume divided by 1 minus their namesake index, denoted n. For 10 points each, name these thermodynamic processes in which pressure times volume to the power of n is constant.
Adiabatic.
Polytropic. The polytropic index of an isobaric process has this value. By definition, the change in pressure during isobaric process equals this number.
0.
That's right. The polytropic index of an isentropic process equals the heat capacity ratio, which is also known as the this property index. By definition, isentropic processes are reversible and have this property.
I think this is adiabatic.
Adiabatic.
That's right, for 20. Toss of 7. The logarithm of a ratio of two values for this quantity over the logarithm of a ratio of corresponding altitudes equals the Hellman constant. Roughness length appears in an equation modeling the log profile of this quantity. This quantity deviates from ideal geostrophic values and increases logarithmically with altitude due to the planetary boundary layer. This quantity is calculated with pressure measurement from pitot tubes. C conditions can be used to infer this quantity with the Beaufort scale.
Wind speed.
Yes, that's right. For 10, and hold on, ask them to be quiet.
Thank you.
Hey, can you guys be quiet, please? Hey, quiet down out here, please.
The giant atrium dome just like collects and amplifies all the sound. Giant parabolic reflector.
Alright, so that is a bonus. In a novel in this language, the protagonist's family is killed after his neighbors move the body of a collaborator outside their house. For 10 points each, name this language used to discuss World War II in the novel The Assault by Harry Mulisch. An author who used this language wrote the oft-quoted line, "It's a wonder I haven't abandoned all my ideals."
This is Yiddish.
No, I don't think. Polish?
It's Dutch. Perhaps the most famous work about the Netherlands under Nazi rule is The Diary of a Young Girl, written by this author while hiding in an Amsterdam annex.
And Frank.
Anne Frank's diary entries are addressed to a figure of this name. This is the nickname usually given to a character in Anna Karenina, who eventually marries Levin.
Kitty.
That's 20. We're on toss 8. One woman realizes that this character has dictated a letter because of its lack of spelling mistakes. Due to not realizing chili is spicy, this character is embarrassed when trying to impress a man who has just returned from India. This character declares, "I could be a good woman if I had 5,000 a year." This character acts...
Liza Doolittle?
No, sorry. As Clytemnestra to impress the Marquis...
Becky Sharp.
That's power.
Nice.
Bonus. In this country, Jean Marie Ruth Roland became the first woman to run in an African presidential election. For 10 points each, in this country where Ruth Roland feuded with David Dacko, who inherited the mess of a self-proclaimed emperor who spent a third of this country's budget on a coronation.
Oh, it's like Iran, I think.
Oh, really?
Answer?
Eswatini.
This is Central African Republic. Ruth Roland led a branch of this international humanitarian organization that hosted the first Geneva Convention and provides blood donations.
Red Cross.
The Red Cross.
Ruth Roland exposed Valerie Giscard d'Estaing's claims that he sold these goods to the Red Cross. The Kimberley system authenticates these goods to prevent their smuggling out of conflicts like the Sierra Leone Civil War.
Diamonds. Yeah, diamonds.
It's 20. Tells 9. The only medical use of lanthanum is to supplement this process, since it is otherwise ineffective at preventing hyperphosphatemia. A polymer of glucose marketed as extrenial provides turgor when this process is done inside the peritoneum. This process should reduce the BUN to below 50 milligrams per deciliter and would be recommended for patients who have low GFRs and poor creatinine clearance. To maintain isotonicity, this process must re-add salt to the liquid.
Dialysis?
That's right for 10. Bonus. Oscar Wilde scattered lilies in the path of this actress during a performance and wrote the play Salome for her to star in. For 10 points each, she is a French stage actress, famous for her role as Marguerite Gautier in La Dame à Camillas. Her golden voice was praised by Victor Hugo.
I have no clue. Smith?
Sarah Bernhardt. Alphonse Mucha made a poster advertising Bernhardt's role in a Paris production of a play named after this mythological figure, who kills her children after her husband Jason plans to marry another woman.
Medea?
A critic writing for a newspaper in this city wrote that in Bernhardt's roles, enactment is smothered in artifice. The co-founder of this city's art theater developed a namesake system that grew into method acting.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I might just go like Rome or something.
Okay.
Rome?
It's Moscow, 10 points. And toss 10. In one work, a man finds out where a god of this location is born by going to Mansion of the Net and sending a man to the Joy of Life Temple. Brides at this location were probably not actually sacrificed, or they were replaced by clay figures. A temple at Esna depicts a god of this location pouring a jug and crafting humans from a pottery wheel. An androgynous, large-stomached god of this location was depicted either surrounded by frogs or lotuses. Khnum and Happy were gods of this location.
Egyptian underworld.
No.
What?
Seasonal changes at this location were explained by Isis's tears for Osiris, who was cut into pieces and thrown into this place. For example, in this location, whose flooding inspired the myths of Egypt.
Nile River.
That's right.
I'm so stupid.
Bonus. The set of all cube moves generates the Rubik's Cube group, which is a subgroup of these groups with degree 48. 10 points each. Name these groups that, when defined over sets of n symbols, consists of the n factorial permutations of the n symbols.
Combinations.
It might be.
I don't know that.
Combinations?
Symmetric groups. The Rubik's Cube group has 81,120 equivalence classes of elements with this property. Another definition of this property holds for pairs of complex numbers with equal real parts and complex parts with opposite signs, like a plus bi and a minus bi.
Like conjugates?
Okay.
Conjugates?
The Rubik's Cube group is non-abelian, meaning that its operation lacks this property. For a binary relation, symmetry is analogous to this property for binary operations.
True. I have no clue.
Answer?
True.
Commutative
No.
10 points. All right, that's a half. At the half, it's Miraloma 180, Woodland 110. Yep. All right, we are on toss-up 11. Here we go. The rather exaggerated customs of a character in this story include his repetition of the personal motto of strictness, strictness, and always strictness. Co-workers of this story's protagonist make a trifling collection for him after mocking him for supposedly dating his landlady.
The overcoat?
Power. Bonus. Jane Hill described a mock version of this language in White Spaces, whose covert racist discourse includes poorly translated bathroom signs. For 10 points each in this language, in which Hill analyzed direct indexicality through the example of the Terminator's butchered phrase "hasta la vista" and "no problemo."
Like Spanish?
Yeah.
Spanish?
Hill presented this word as an example of semantic pejoration. Omar Castaneda described Latin American culture characterized by this word as self-aggrandizing male bravado that flirts with physical harm to be sexual.
Right.
Muchísimo?
Wait, what?
Muchísimo?
Answer?
Muchísimo?
Yep. Hill claims mock Spanish helps homogenize heterogeneity in line with this thinker's idea of transformist hegemony. This thinker viewed Marxism as a philosophy of praxis.
I don't know. Smith?
This is Antonio Gramsci. 20 points. Toss up. A concert hall in this city hired physicist Wallace Sabine to scientifically design its acoustics, leading to a unit of sound absorption called the Sabin. The record for most album sales of any orchestra in the world is held by an orchestra from the city led for many years by Arthur Fielder. Symphony of Psalms was commissioned by Sergei Kosovitsky during his directorship of the city's orchestra. Since 1974, an orchestra based in this city has used a howitzer in Independence Day performances of the 1812 Overture. The city is home to the Berklee College of Music and...
Boston?
That's right. For 10. Bonus. In the Gospel of James, a woman's hand decays after denying this idea. For 10 points each, name this idea, recognized by the title of A Parthenos in Orthodox belief, and promoted by the second of four dogmas from the Council of Ephesus. This idea means that Simon and Jude were not biological brothers of a certain figure.
What? Like, I don't know.
Answer?
Divine conception.
Conception?
No, this is the virginity of Mary. Scholars debate whether or not Jesus' brothers were the children from a previous marriage of this carpenter and husband of Mary.
Joseph?
Sure. Should be.
Joseph?
Yep. This saint helped canonize the perpetual virginity by rejecting Jovinian's ideas at the Synod of Milan in 390 CE. St. Augustine converted from Manichaeism after hearing this saint speak.
I'm not sure.
Not sure. Peter.
Answer?
Peter?
St. Ambrose, 10 points.
Could we process the first part?
Yes. So mark that. And you said conception.
Virginity of Mary.
Divine conception.
The term is
Didn't show up in protest.
Where's that?
They popped out a different room. This is the message. Unless they were simultaneously. Is it? No, it's Ryan's bonus. Okay. That's just weird timing.
Yeah, I think I need to actually submit a protest form to have it
okay,
show
okay.
up, which I have not done yet because ones have not.
Okay, but we're past
affected.
half. Okay, yeah,
All right. So we've noted that. Right now the score is Miraloma 180, Woodland 170, so close game, and we're going into toss up 13.
180?
What is that?
180?
180, 170.
Yeah, I have 180.
Oh, sorry. Oh, you have. Make sure that.
What do you have?
180?
Yeah, 180, 170. Oh, 180, 180?
You only got the middle part on that last bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at the half,
120?
I had 110 at the half.
What did you have at 9?
120 at the half?
Yeah, is there a score sheet?
You just scroll down on the right, yeah, that works.
Yeah, okay, so Woodlawn, they got 10 and 30 to get to 40, 10 and 20 to get to 70, and then 10 and 10 to get to 90, and 10 and 10 to get to 110.
So there were 2 on the bonus for 10?
Oh, 1 out of those.
Yeah, on toss of 10 it was, they got the middle part for 10, so 110. Okay.
That's the part that they got in the bonus.
Yeah. So they got the conjugate one for Rubik's Cube, but did not get commutative or symmetric. Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So we're on 13. Toss up. British businesses producing this good in Port Talbot were nationalized by Harold Wilson in 1967. A Sheffield resident who revolutionized the production of this good lends his name to an Alabama town whose Amazon workers failed to unionize in 2021. Responding to a prize sponsored by Napoleon, Friedrich Krupp built a factory in 1811 named for manufacturing this material. The London headquarters of the Hanseatic League was named for a yard of this material. It's not coal, but Robert Schumann helped...
Steel.
That's right.
Nice.
Yes.
10 points. Bonus. The enzyme that cleaves a 5' leader sequence off these molecules is very nearly conserved across all life. For 10 points each, name these nucleic acids. Upon cleavage of the leader sequence, they folded into a cloverleaf structure and expose their anticodon loop.
Telomeres.
No, these are tRNAs. In 2002, biologists found the first organism that lacks RNA ASP, an extremely genome-reduced species in this prokaryotic domain that compromises many extremophiles.
Archaea.
Yeah.
Yep. Nanoarchaeum equitans instead synthesized tRNAs from tRNA halves using the transform of this process. Tom Cech discovered ribozymes when he found tetrahymena RNAs catalyzed this process on themselves via a knotted loop intermediate.
Isomerization.
This is splicing, 10 points.
Oh.
2014. This quantity is measured using 2 strings in bifilar suspension experiments. Euler's equations for rigid body dynamics left multiply vectors denoted omega and omega dot with a matrix representation of this quantity. Instability regarding a certain principal construct corresponding to an intermediate value of this quantity is described by the tennis racket theorem.
Moment of inertia.
That's right for 10.
Yeah. Stock. Good job.
Bonus. Jesmond Ward edited the 2021 edition of a yearly anthology of the best American works in this literary form. For 10 points each, name this form of literary fiction whose length lends itself to being published by magazines such as The New Yorker and The Atlantic.
Short story.
Works longer than those in this form are generally considered novellas.
Short story.
This author's short story Girl was published in The New Yorker and takes the form of an extended to-do list from mother to daughter.
Wait, what's the one we watched in class?
Answer?
Shirley Jackson.
It's Jamaica Kincaid. This collection's first story about Shu Kumar and Shobha in a power outage first appeared in The New Yorker. This collection includes the stories Sexy and the Third and Final Continent.
Interpreter of Maladies.
That's 20 points. Plus 15. This artist painted the most copied image of René Descartes, which hangs in the Louvre. The painting The Carousing Couple was misattributed to this artist thanks to an altered monogram, as was much of the work of Judith Leister. Gustave Courbet made a version of this artist's depiction of a beer jug holding woman with an owl on her shoulder titled Mal Babe. The subject...
Halls.
That's right for 10.
Oh, good pause.
The Leister one.
Yeah.
Bonus. In Al-Ghazali's book, The Deliverance from Error, personifications of these things make the argument that even self-evident truths like 10 being greater than 3 cannot be trusted. For 10 points each, name this set of 5 faculties that empiricism holds to be the source of all knowledge.
Truths.
senses. This thought experiment from Islamic philosophy suggests that a being spontaneously generated without any senses and unaware of the existence of his body would still be able to affirm that he exists.
I don't know.
No answer.
Floating man. The floating man was imagined by this philosopher who argued that besides the five senses, we have internal senses such as estimation. Al-Ghazali critiqued this 11th century polymath and doctor.
Al-Khwarizmi?
Shit.
Al-Khwarizmi?
It's Avicenna, no points there.
Oh, what are you saying?
Toss of 16. Although it's not a religion, this concept is symbolized as a hand with a wheel on the palm. The Yoga Sutras of Putan Uli said that all hostilities cease in the presence of one practicing this concept. This concept is personified as a devoted wife in the Puranas. Monks must carefully look several feet forward in order to implement this concept in...
Ahisma?
Say it again?
Ahisma?
No. In orthodox manner. Sorry. This concept is paired in Jainism with non-acquisition and non-absolutism. This this religious principle was adopted by one politician as a cornerstone to his movement of truth force, or satyagraha. For 10 points, name is principle of Buddhism and Hinduism espoused by Mahatma Gandhi, whose Sanskrit name literally translates as non-injury or harmlessness.
Non-violence.
Prompt. That's time. So it's ahimsa.
Yeah.
So you said
Yeah.
ahisma and transpose the vowels
the
there.
first clue is like this, like
What?
the thing, the Jane flag.
Yeah,
I was thinking like, yeah, yeah.
Honestly, I also thought it was
The first clue is literally the Jane flag. Like,
Okay, so that one goes dead. We move on to toss up 17. Toss up. Some of this city's traffic lights have been privately funded by the Deeper Life Bible Church and contribute to traffic jams known locally as go-slows. This city is the largest, where pickpockets called agberos harass passengers of buses called danfos. The city's airport is named for military ruler Murtala Muhammad. An 8-meter-high seawall protects the newly dredged Eco-Atlantic island.
Lagos.
That's right for 10.
yeah.
Bonus. Some Western officials speculated that defector Viktor Belenko must have been a double agent because they could not believe how primitive the computers in one of these planes were. For 10 points each, name this class of Soviet fighter planes whose 25 variant was flown by Belenko.
This is B-25.
It's a MiG. The vacuum tubes in the MiG-25 were more resilient to pulses from these weapons than Western planes. One of these weapons, called Little Boy, was used on August 6, 1945.
Atomic bomb.
Yeah. The Soviet electronics industry was helped by Americans Joel Barr and Alfred Sarant, whose actions were tracked in this signals intelligence program. Declassified cables from this program proved Julius Rosenberg's guilt in the 1990s.
Oh. It's like,
Go into a pro.
sure.
Go
Answer?
into a pro.
This is Venona Project, 10 points there. Toss of 18. This thinker argued that Numa Pompilius was more important than Romulus because he used religion to establish social cohesion. This thinker imagined David refusing Saul's armor and going to fight Goliath with a knife and a parable advising against auxiliaries. The problem of dirty hands is traced back to a passage in which this thinker described the task of learning not to be good. This author of a commentary on Ab Urbe Condita called for his country to unify in the final chapter of a treatise that compares fortune to a raging river. Unlike his discourses on Livy, this thinker's magnum...
Machiavelli.
That's right, for 10.
That's
Bonus for 10 points each. Answer the following about solvent effects on the reaction of S2-chlorobutane with sodium iodide. If DMSO is the solvent, the reaction occurs through this simple organic mechanism, and the stereocenter completely inverts to produce the R enantiomer.
SN2.
Yes. If ethanol is the solvent, the reaction forms an achiral carbocation as one of these species, so the product is racemic instead. In a multi-step reaction, these stable chemical species occur at energy minima.
Intermediates.
If strong base is present, the reaction yields butene, which is one of these compounds containing a carbon-carbon double bond.
Alkene.
30 points. Toss of 19. In a novel, a woman decides to go to this country following her parents' death in a car bombing, which leads Ada to reveal that she was the infamous Baby Nicole. An epilogue set at a 13th symposium dedicated to this country includes a discussion of the Ardua Hall holograph. After meeting Moira, a novel's...
Gilead.
That's power.
Nice.
Bonus. Answer the following about literary figures from the texts they send in a comedic 2014 book by Daniel Mallory Ordberg. This love interest of a Charlotte Bronte novel constantly sends all-cap texts saying, "Did you leave because of my addict wife?" This guardian of Adele Varennes disguises himself as a fortune teller.
Mr. Rochester.
Nice.
This poet's texts include, "I just think it's a little weird. You don't mind when a flea bites both of us, but you won't have sex with me." This metaphysical poet of the flea wrote to Death Be Not Proud.
Done.
Yeah. In a reference to this poem, a poet texts his friend, "Bring me my bow of burning gold, bring me my arrows of desire," only to be told you're not allowed to have arrows. This poem references dark satanic mills.
Oh, this is something with Blake. Jerusalem?
Yes. 30.
Okay.
And last also. In this modern-day country, a native woman known as Juliana revolted against the regime imposed by Domingo Martinez de Arala. This country's 1936 Febrerista revolt briefly deposed military hero Jose Felix Estejarribia. This country's Los Yankees soccer club derives its nickname from Rutherford B. Hayes, who settled
Paraguay.
That's power. Bonus. These artworks inspired Jasper John's early career work, Construction with Toy Piano. For 10 points each, name these types of artworks in which found objects are incorporated into paintings, giving them sculptural elements. Robert Rauschenberg coined the term for these artworks and produced many of them, such as Bed and Monogram.
It's like combines.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, Rauschenberg's Combine Canyon contains a golden eagle in this art form. This art form involves preserving an animal's body through mounting and stuffing and is popular among hunters.
It's like, just like,
Answer?
Taxidermy?
Yeah.
Nice.
Reviews of Rauschenberg's work have been critiqued for not linking them with his upbringing in this U.S. state. The state's largest city contains one of Barnett Newman's broken obelisks, which sits in front of the Rothko Chapel.
Texas.
That's 30 points. All right, that's the final score. Miraloma 400, Woodland 170.
Good game.
Great job, guys.
Good game.
in 2011, yes, they called it.
All right, welcome everyone to round 9 of the 2023 PACE NSC. We have Plymouth and Detroit County Day playing. Country. You know, I've made that mistake like probably 100 times. I find that is the typographically the error that is like hardest to catch, especially when people mean county and not country. But anyway, so correctly, Detroit Country Day is the team on the right here. I am Mike Bentley. I'll be moderating. Let's do a quick buzzer check. Start over here. All right. I believe we have a sponsor. Let me load that up. So this round is sponsored in honor of Illinois Hall of Fame coach Karen Niemeyer. So thank you to our sponsor for this round. Is everyone ready to start with toss-up number 1?
Yep.
All right, here we go. Toss-up. The longest lasting one of these objects is located in a fire station in Livermore, California, and has been in use since 1901. William Coolidge's extra ductile version of a key material aided in the production of these objects. The Phoebus cartel consisted of companies who planned to purposefully limit the lifespan of these objects. At the World's Columbian exhibition, Grover Cleveland activated approximately 100,000 of these objects that were installed by a man.
Like light bulbs?
That's right, for 10.
Nice.
Bonus. Beds are a type of these structures that are separated by bedding planes. For 10 points each, geological folds arise from the bending of series of these structures. The law of superposition gives that in the absence of deformation, these layers are in order by their age.
Like rock layers?
Yeah.
Rock layers?
I just have strata. Many folds consist of deformed strata of this class of rocks that include chalk and sandstone.
Sedimentary.
Yeah.
Sedimentary.
That's right. This type of fold is convex down and features the older strata nearer to its center. Petroleum is often found in structural troughs resulting from natural cavities that can form under these folds.
Is it an anticline or a syncline? Is one of those?
Like, okay.
Answer?
Anticline?
It's right for 20.
Nice.
Good coach.
Toss-up 2. A 9-foot-tall reproduction of this sculpture dominates the conservatory in Frank Lloyd Wright's David Martin House in Buffalo. A case near this sculpture displays some fingers once belonging to it that Charles Champozeau had missed when gathering its pieces. A 2014 restoration re-added fragments of a feather to this sculptor's chiton. The base of this sculpture is made from Lartos marble and includes a depiction of ore boxes, a reference to the naval battle it commemorates.
The Winged Victory, Samothrace.
That's right, yes. 10 points. Bonus. Answer the following about the use of colophons in Chinese art for 10 points each. Colophons, a type of text commentary on a painting, are often attached as sheets of paper to these works. These works were often displayed on a table and are generally longer than ones that hang from a wall.
Like landscapes? Longer than ones. No, scrolls. Scrolls.
Answer.
Scrolls.
Prompt.
Landscapes. Painting scroll. Chinese scrolls.
Hand scrolls. Colophons might contain many of these imprints to assert pride and ownership. Many Asian countries still use these imprints to authenticate official documents rather than signatures.
It's a fingerprint. You sure? Yeah. You should stamp. Fingerprint.
Answer.
Fingerprint.
It's a seal or stamp. A colophon describes Guan Dao Sheng, a master from artist from this dynasty, painting a grove from a boat. San Shu poetry and Za Jiayu opera reached peak popularity during this dynasty, in which the Fagspa script developed.
Oh, it's Yuan, I'm pretty sure. Yuan? Yeah. Yuan?
Yeah, 10 points.
Can you protest the second part?
Okay. I will note that.
Scary, like, these guys are scary.
No, not like the protest in general. Like these yeses.
Calm down.
Right, here is toss-up number 3. In a dream, a character sees several of these objects after being saved by a figure with a deep cut in its hand while stuck in a snowstorm. These objects are produced by a half-blind shoe repairman named Sifo. A silent orphan appears to smile after watching a character perform a technique with one of these objects in Fremont, California. As he retrieves a blue one of these objects, a character who was sexually assaulted in an alley by 3 boys shouts... That's right for 10.
Good job.
Bonus. In this place, hair that yields with coy submission is contrasted with a forelock manly hung. For 10 points each, name this place. In a 1667 poem, two characters leave this place with wandering steps and slow after being visited by a figure disguised as a toad.
Where's the Rape of the Lock set?
Answer?
Graveyard. Cemetery.
This is the Garden of Eden. Eden is contrasted with this high capital of Satan and his peers. At a lake of fire near this place, Satan claims it is better to reign in hell than serve in heaven.
Wait, no, what pandemonium?
Pandemonium.
That's right. This poet recounted the expulsion of Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden in Paradise Lost.
Milton.
That's right for 20.
Alright, okay. You got this. Good clutch on the lid. That's not
Good job.
That's up for. The friendship between two thinkers from this country is the subject of Dennis Rasmussen's book The Infidel and the Professor. Enlightenment-era thinkers from this country often met at the Select Society and the Poker Club. The founder of this country's school of common-sense realism argued against his countrymen's theory that constant conjunction creates our notion of cause and effect. In a dialogue from this country, the skeptic Philo criticizes arguments for...
Like, Hume's was like the UK?
Prompt.
Ireland?
No, sorry.
Oh no.
For the existence of God. In this country, the author of the Theory of Moral Sentiments wrote a eulogy for a philosopher who critiqued his own empiricism with the example of a missing shade of blue. For 10 points, in this country, home to best friends David Hume and Adam Smith.
Scotland.
That's right.
I feel like you're really mad right now. Did you call them part of the UK? So that was correct over here. In one use of this technique in 2001 A Space Odyssey, an ape throws a bone in the air immediately before satellite appears on screen. For 10 points each, name this type of edit in which the composition and elements of one scene are used to cut to a visually and often thematically similar scene.
Like transition? I don't know. Like
Answer?
Like a transition?
It's a match cut. 2001 A Space Odyssey is a film by this director who also directed The Shining.
Kubrick.
A match cut is used to cut from a shot of one of these body parts to a shot of the moon in a film by Luis Buñuel and Salvador Dali. Metal clamps are placed around these body parts on Alex in a notable scene in Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange. That's right for 20.
Let's clip this up.
Toss 5. This quantity equals the square root of 1 plus the electric susceptibility by the Ewald-Oseen extinction theorem. Cauchy expresses this quantity as a Lorentz series with only even non-positive terms in an equation that inspired a formula for the square of this quantity, the Sellmeier equation. Values of this quantity at levels labeled C, D, and F are used to calculate a substance's Abbe number. This quantity...
Like, index of refraction?
That's right for 10.
Nice.
Dude, I literally like... It was in HSNT. I didn't get it.
Bonus.
And then I
This
reviewed
country's
my card.
town of Kalgoorlie was the rare mining town where the streets had indeed been paved with gold after someone came up with a way to make gold from the waste products calaverite. For 10 points each, name this modern-day country where gold miners staged the Eureka Rebellion in the 1850s.
Very different. Australia.
The Eureka miners swore allegiance to one of these objects with a Southern Cross on it. The modern Australian one of these objects has both a Southern Cross and a Union Jack.
Flag.
In 1852, Bully Forbes sailed from England to Australia in just 74 days on one of these ships. These sailing vessels, sometimes named for Baltimore, were originally built for the tea trade in China.
Is it or is it junk?
No.
Schooner.
These are clippers, 20 points.
They're not junk items.
Toss up 6. A character who delivers butter to one of these locations chokes on a turkey heart intended to make him end an affair with Lulu. Robert Johnson's magic guitar inspires 3 boys to create a band in a novel titled for one of these locations, Blues. A comic artist with hydrocephalus was born at one...
Like a reservation, Native American reservation?
Yeah, that's fine. Bonus. Beth Shapiro's 2015 how-to book argues that this genetic engineering project could make Siberia more habitable. For 10 points each, describe this primary project undertaken by Colossal Biosciences, a spin-off from George Church's lab.
I have no idea.
This project? Like trying to...
You know this actually, or are you guessing?
Answer?
Farming...
Sequencing the human genome.
No, this is the extinction of the woolly mammoth. How to Clone a Mammoth describes how mammoth-induced grass growth could transform regions of Siberia into this biome. It appears north of the taiga belt and coastal regions of the Arctic and is characterized by an abundance of short plants.
Tundra.
Yeah. Changing the biome of their ecosystem would mean that mammoths have this role, exemplified by keystone species like beavers, which alter their environments via niche construction.
I
I thought I don't know what do keystone species do?
Oh, they
Answer?
Terraformers.
These are ecosystem engineers. 10 points.
Oh.
Toss aside. Description acceptable. A colonial power cracked down on supporters of this cause in Operation Agatha. Supporters of this cause piloted a ship whose attempts to contravene the 1939 White Paper are depicted in a Leon Uris novel. A paramilitary group founded to fight for this cause, the Stern Gang, assassinated the Swedish diplomat Folke Bernadotte. The British government's support for this cause contradicted...
Creating a state like Israel?
Yep, that's 10.
There's frequently, I wasn't sure if it was Israel or Palestine. I didn't know which one it was. So good job. I don't know if it was Israelis or Palestinians. You're good.
You are Arthur, right?
I'm Arthur.
Can you guys switch your...
Are we?
Oh, are we switched? Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
I don't think I've made mistakes before.
Have you been switched?
My last name is not Joe.
Okay, with Arthur getting that, this bonus for Detroit Country Day. The speaker of a poem by this author requests Jesus, Savior, Pilot Me over life's tempestuous sea. For 10 points each, name this first African American to be U.S. Poet Laureate. He wrote the poems Those Winter Sundays and Middle Passage.
Hayden?
That's right. Hayden wrote a poem framed as a letter from this author, who is considered the first African American to publish a poetry book. This author claimed, "'Twas mercy brought me from my pagan land, and being on broad from Africa to America."
Wheatley?
Yep. A Hayden poem in this genre, typically written in AABA or ABAB quatrains, is set to music, is addressed to Nat Turner. Another poem in this form proclaims each man kills the thing he loves.
That's
a ballad.
Yeah, ballad.
30.
Yeah, we get a good job.
Toss up. A celebrated 3-volume 1952 anthology album titled For This Type of Music was compiled by Harry Smith and released on a Mo Ash record label named For This Type of Music. A Library of Congress center named for this kind of music is one of many collections of recordings made by Alan Lomax, including an interview with a musician whose son is named Arlo. At a 1965 festival named for this type of music, an artist controversially performed the song Maggie's Farm using electric guitars. The first year of a Berkeley festival named for this type of music featured a man who sometimes performed with the phrase, "This machine kills fascists" on his...
Like folk?
That's right.
Nice.
Okay. Bonus. In a paper titled For This Group's Obituary, Rudolf Simek argues that they were just an alliterative poetic device, though the author of the Cowboy Havamal, Jackson Crawford, disputes this. For 10 points each, name this group of Norse gods who received 2 men as a gift, but decapitated one after the other couldn't make any decisions without him.
The Vanir.
Along with the indecisive Honir, this man was given to the Vanir as a hostage in the Aesir-Vanir War in exchange for Kvasir. Odin later embalmed his head with herbs.
Mimir?
That's right. Like many scholars, Leszek P. Slupecki rejects Simek's claim, though he believes that this Vanir twin brother of Freya is actually an Aesir.
Right.
That's right, for 30.
Even I did it.
Yeah.
2009. This process is the most common response regulated by the effector in a bacterial 2-component system. Helix turn helix and leucine zipper domains are found in allosteric proteins like CAP that regulate this process. Biologists use arabinose and IPTG to activate this process in bacteria. An attenuator shuts off this process when tryptophan levels are high in a...
Like transcribing an operator?
Say it again?
Transcribing an operator.
No. Of negative regulation. This process begins at the +1 position after sigma factors bind to the -10 and -35 sites, then it proceeds downstream. This process is blocked when the lac repressor is bound to its operator. This process is initiated at a promoter when RNA polymerase binds to DNA. For 10 points, name this first step of gene expression that precedes translation.
Transcribing.
Yeah.
Can I protest? I think all those clues
But you
were
don't transcribe
referring
the operator.
Yeah, I think all those clues were referring to operators specifically.
Well, how do you transcribe the
Okay, go for it.
1 second.
Are you 100% sure of that?
Okay, I've noted the protests, and we will get this resolved if it matters. So in the meantime, bonus for Detroit Country Day. A book by Eugene Weber explores how the rural population of this country was incorporated into a modern nation between 1870 and 1914. For 10 points each, name this country whose countryside could also be, or could be explored in the early 20th century through maps published by a tire company. That same company from this country issued stars to restaurants.
France, probably.
Weber documented how most of France rarely drank this beverage until the 20th century. An aphid called the grape phylloxera devastated French production of this beverage in the 19th century.
Probably wine.
That's right. Weber credits this practice with homogenizing French wine tastes. France pioneered the modern form of this practice with one that took place en masse in 1793.
This practice?
Yeah.
Like
Revolution?
dry aging? I don't know.
What the hell?
Dry aging?
This is conscription. 20
Oh,
points.
1793. Was there a major conscription event?
Toss of 10. One figure is unable to remember how to use one of these objects when a city is sinking, causing him to return it by dropping it into the sea. One figure crashes the wedding party of a hero who broke one of these objects.
Oh, a sword?
No.
Oh,
And challenges that deity to lift one of these objects. Shiva uses Mount Mandara as one of these objects with the earth as his chariot to destroy Tripura. After the sun clears, an Astra focused through one of these objects decapitates Jayadratha. Karna learns to use one of these objects created by Vishvakarma, which is used to fight Kshatriyas. Pinaka and Sharanga are rival examples of these weapons, one of which, named Vijaya, was wielded by Indra. One of these weapons, Gandiva, was wielded by a Pandava mentored by the charioteer Krishna. Arjuna wields for 10 points which stringed weapon?
bow.
That's right.
Your time. You're still alive.
Bonus, in March 2023, Australian petrels became the first animals known to suffer fibrosis caused by these materials. For 10 points each, name these ubiquitous water pollutants. These organic particles are shorter than 5 millimeters long and are shed from nylon or polyester textiles.
Like microplastics? Microplastics.
Plasticosis in birds worry scientists who study the baleen type of these marine mammals, which are also at extreme risk due to plastic pollution.
Whales.
Thankfully, microplastics have move slower between trophic levels than this textbook example of a bioaccumulating organic toxin. This one carbon compound marched straight up the food chain from plankton to shellfish to tuna to humans in the 1956 outbreak of Minamata disease.
I don't think the methyl mercury or something like that.
Oh, thiazole.
Answer?
Methyl mercury?
That's right for 30.
Nice.
Alright, we can do this. We just,
Alright, so that's the half. So there's some points in protest, but what we currently have is Plymouth at 110, Detroit Country Day at 220.
I have 100.
This is way
Yeah, sorry, 100. Did I say something that was not 100?
Plymouth isn't sitting
I think you said 110.
Okay, I may have said 110. The actual score is 100. Sorry about that.
I guess I can go ahead and
Wait,
say
Plymouth?
Yeah, let's. So there's
was
two
that?
outstanding.
Wait. Is Plymouth a city?
Yeah.
Alright, so
How far away is that from like?
Decent.
Yeah, like
yeah. So the on toss up 9.
so what round is this? This is round 9. This is
Yes.
halftime. Okay.
Alright.
Yeah. So we'll see this one first. So yeah, question 9.
Yeah, it's not fun because we would have could have put like that. Yeah, you could have been.
I think it's some like.
I
like they're gonna go to
common
Mars or
example.
Just move on to the second trap. It's fine. Just highlight it.
I think he was gonna. Wait, I think we might.
I was in the
might
elevator.
get
Told him I'm from Detroit, so I'm from the suburbs.
But you subscribe it operator.
There's some girl who lives in there. She's not from Ann
You
Arbor.
shouldn't have said operator.
You should have simplified it down.
Alright, so you're saying that we're
Listen, I was just in the elevator and I was sweating. We were finishing station.
Besides having played out of
Yeah, I just got out of the hotel.
I think we should.
Besides
Like,
having
where you
played out
from?
Okay, so
Detroit.
I guess are you saying those are the same thing? Like what's your justification for that protest?
All you said all the clues so far.
Refers specifically to operons.
First one off.
Some girl.
What you said is operator though.
You want to go through with it?
No, I don't think that's acceptable.
Just
try.
How do you transcribe an operator?
Have you ever
What
seen
does it
operator
mean?
replace operator?
Operator is technically the first part of the operon.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
part.
We'll
just
yeah, you would have gotten it right.
He said like it's like anti-pop or whatever.
I don't actually see the protest.
What do you mean?
Like I marked it and then.
Yeah, I don't know where that goes. I think it gets like
I'm waiting to see
or
what
something. I'm not actually sure what the protest like. I think he's just testing their functionality for the future. So.
Transcribe the gene into characters. Kappa literally just know like operon.
Yeah, so like what are they asking?
I guess even the operon is wrong because operon refers to the.
That'd have been a better.
What's the score at the halftime?
Yeah, it's still 220-100.
Okay.
All right, let's resume here.
Yeah,
All right, everyone ready? All right, here's Toss 11. In a story by an author with this last name, a professor finds the inscription Fur Fla Fi Bis on an ancient artifact which summons an apparition made of bed sheets. Another author with this surname wrote about Spencer Bryden revisiting his childhood home. The story Oh Whistle and and I'll Come to You.
James?
That's right.
Come on.
Bonus. The word pants derives from the tight red pants worn by Pantalone in performances of this theatrical form. For 10 points each, name is traditional Italian theatrical form whose other stock characters include the Doctor and Harlequin.
Probably Commedia dell'arte.
Yeah.
Commedia dell'arte.
That's right. The stock characters of Commedia dell'arte were often identified by their use of these objects. Examples of these objects showing a smile and a frown together symbolize theater.
Masks.
Yep. This author defended Commedia dell'arte masks in his article Hands Off the Mask. In a 1970 play by this Italian author, the maniac disrupts Inspector Bertozzo's investigations of the title character's death by defenestration.
I don't know his name. Manzoni.
Oh no, Faux.
Yes, 30. Toss up. George Salmunezer created a fake language for this territory and wrote a book claiming its native people sacrificed 18,000 boys a year. The merchant Hamada Yahé held Peter Newts hostage at knife point in this territory. From 1862, a British consulate in Fort Santo Domingo in a treaty port in this territory supervised its large tea export market. General Koshinga established a dynasty in this...
Taiwan?
That's right for 10.
Oh, yeah, I could think of
That was hard.
That is really hard.
Bonus. This technology is employed by startup Charm Industrial, a company that transports waste from cornfields and injects it into abandoned mines. For 10 points each, name is broad climate change technology that converts an industrial byproduct into a superfluid and then stores it in pools or sinks.
Biodegradable? Is that? I don't know.
Answer?
Biofuel.
This is carbon capture. This man helped finance a $100 million prize for carbon capture technology. This billionaire acquired Twitter in 2022.
Elon Musk.
A 2005 report by this international organization was devoted to carbon capture technology. This group's 6th assessment report, released in 2021, had 234 contributors and called for immediate cuts to emissions to avoid warming above 1.5 degrees Celsius.
Maybe Greenpeace.
Probably.
I think Greenpeace, maybe.
Sure.
Greenpeace?
This is IPCC.
I don't know.
10 points. Toss 13. Static light scattering indicates this quantity for biomacromolecules. After trypsinization, proteins are sequenced by measuring this quantity for their trypsinized peptides to 4 decimal place precision. This property of a protein is estimated from a Kumasi-stained ladder with bands at 25, 37, 50, and 150. This...
Like weight.
Yes.
Nice. What was it?
Mass or weight.
Oh, okay.
That was...
I heard you guys.
Bonus. In 2024, this location's 4th plinth will feature Teresa Margolis's sculpture 850 Improntas, which depicts life masks of trans people in the style of an Aztec skull rack. For 10 points each, name this general location home to a 169-foot tall column surrounded by 4 bronze lions designed by Edwin Landseer and topped by a contrapposto sculpture of its namesake admiral.
Nelson.
Trafalgar Square.
Yep. A drone recorded people while attached to one of these objects in Hart Phillipson's 4th plinth sculpture, The End. One of these objects appears on top of a spoon stretching over a lake in a classic Oldenburg sculpture.
This makes sense. Cherry.
That's right. Hans Hacke's skeletal horse sculpture played on the fact that the 4th plinth intended to exhibit William IV in one of these sculptures depicting a mounted figure.
An equestrian.
Yes. 30 points. Toss 14. The hymn melody of a tone poem by this composer was adapted into Be Still My Soul. A violin concerto by this composer opens with a soloist playing G, short A, down to D, over a shimmering D minor string texture.
Sibelius.
That's power.
Yeah, dude, Be Still My Soul is like really stuck.
Bonus. Bell's theorem states that any hidden variable theory of quantum mechanics violates this principle. For 10 points each, name this principle that states that objects are only affected by their immediate surroundings.
No.
Answer?
Localization.
I don't have that. I just have locality.
Just take
In
away
this
zero.
non-local phenomenon, physically separated particles exert influence on each other's quantum states. Quantum computers rely on this phenomenon that Einstein derided as spooky action at a distance.
Quantum entanglement.
Yes. Observation of an entangled particle causes this process to occur for the entire entangled system. By this process, a wave function reduces to a single eigenstate and can be approximated by a normal distribution with extremely low variance.
So it's shoot. This process. Decomposition. Fourier decomposition.
Answer?
Decomposition.
This collapse, so 10 points.
Wave function collapse.
Plus 15. This figure delivered the sermon of Fadak, which chastised Abu Bakr for unjustly taking some inheritance. This person's spouse sold a shield to pay for a mar or bridal gift. After marriage, this person lived in poverty and was taught a namesake 100 tasbih to cope with their struggles. This figure is known by an epithet meaning the radiant, al-Zahra. One of this figure's sons was the most famous martyr of the Battle of Karbala.
Like Aisha.
No, sorry. This daughter of Khadijah was the mother of the second and third Shia imams and the wife of the first. An Ismaili Shia caliphate with a long-time capital in Cairo was named for this woman. Her famous favorite daughter of the Prophet Muhammad, who married Ali.
Fatima.
That's right.
Good job. Nice. I should do that one.
Bonus. Arab spice traders established the Kachchi Mali Mosque in this island settlement of Burwala, where they first landed. For 10 points each, name this island, which was given the name Serendib by Arab traders. Adam's Bridge connects this island to the mainland.
Sri Lanka.
Ibn Battuta's account of his visit to this Sri Lankan kingdom claims that Alexander the Great visited the island and rode his horse to one of its summits. This Tamil kingdom was centered around a namesake peninsula on the northern coast of Sri Lanka.
Might be candy. I don't think it's candy. I think it's Java. Oh no, that's not in Sri
Candy.
Lanka.
Answer?
Candy.
Kingdom of Jaffna. Arabs in Sri Lanka also controlled the trade in this good. The growth of Persian Gulf cities like Zubara was spurred by the harvesting of these precious objects from oysters.
Pearls. Yeah.
Can we get a timeout?
20 points.
They call timeout.
You don't need a score check. You don't need a timeout for a score check in this format.
Just score
You
yeah,
can also
so-
have a timeout if you want.
No, just score check that.
Yeah,
sure. Just
score check.
So 180 for Plymouth, 320 for Detroit Country Town.
I have 170.
What do you have?
All right. Score sheet.
So is this a timeout or no?
No, I don't think it's
No, it's not time.
If you want, you can call one.
No, we're good. We're good.
So at the half, Plymouth had 100.
Oh, we're on toss up 16.
And then on 13, they got 20 and 30 to get to 150.
Oh, I did not get that.
We would have to 30.
Okay.
Going into
Average. It's just a tie up.
We're going to toss up 16, 180, 320.
still 80 points under protest.
180.
All right. Toss up 16. A method named for Welch in this letter approximates solutions to the Behrens-Fisher problem. A dimension reduction method often used to visualize genomic data is named this letter SNE. The coefficient of determination equals the complement of the ratio of the residual sum of squares to a quantity denoted this letter SS.
Sigma.
No, sorry. A distribution name for this letter converges to a standard normal distribution as degrees of freedom tend towards infinity. When sample size is small or variance is unknown, a statistic denoted with this letter is used instead of the z-score in a namesake test. Random points give this letter that name's student's distribution, which is like the normal distribution, but with heavier tails.
T.
That's correct.
Okay, we got this. We got this, guys.
Bonus. This composer included a viola solo in a piece written during a family holiday in Alassio, Italy, titled In the South. For 10 points each, name this composer whose piece Introduction in Allegro was inspired by a song he heard in Wales. As an engagement present to Caroline Alice Roberts, he composed the violin piece Salute de Amor.
Oh, Elgar.
Elgar's The Dream of Gerontius is often considered one of these large-scale vocal works. Handel's Messiah and Haydn's The Grecian are examples of these works.
Oratorio.
This piece by Elgar was premiered by his good friend Felix Salmond. John Barbaroli conducted this piece when it was performed by the 20-year-old Jacqueline Dupre.
Elgar's Cello Concerto.
That's right.
Good, but yes,
30 points.
Oh no, we got carbon capture.
Plus 17. A book protesting toxic examples of this material by Dr. Robert Kedzie was scanned by the NLM under a fume hood. Coutol's product for cleaning coal residue from this material was reworked into Play-Doh. A fruit trellis inspired the first pattern for this material created by William Morris as part of the arts and crafts movement. The Shields green pigment used in this material in Longwood House on St. Helena, possibly
The wallpaper?
as power.
Nice.
Bonus. Diane Vaughn's book, Dead Reckoning, argues that air traffic controllers have avoided the normalization of this behavior. For 10 points each, in this behavior, which is suggested as being learned from others in Edwin Sutherland's differential association theory. 5 types of this behavior, like innovation and retreatism, were theorized by Robert K. Merton's strain theory.
Crime. That's crime.
Crime.
Deviance. Behaviors in strain theory arise from anomie, a lack of social direction coined in this 1897 book that analyzes altruistic or egoistic reasoning behind the title act.
Like suicide. Suicide.
Yes.
Nice.
Sutherland also defined this type of crime committed by people with high social status, such as embezzlement, bribery, and money laundering.
White collar, right?
Okay, you say.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
White collar.
That's right for 20.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We get a score check.
Yes, it is 260 for Plymouth, 320 for Detroit Country Day, with some points in protest.
How many points? Toss-ups left?
Toss-up.
Or toss
We're going to toss-up 18. The Leech Book of Bald records this man's correspondence with Elias, Patriarch of Jerusalem. A now-forgotten 18th century masque about this man popularized the song Rule Britannia. Modern scholars have challenged the originality of a type of defensive structure supposedly invented by this ruler called a burr.
Alfred the Great.
That's power. Bonus. Isabel Allende discussed the definition of feminism in a talk given for this organization titled Tales of Passion. For 10 points each, name is an organization that hosts widely broadcast short talks by authors at conferences whose tagline is Ideas Worth Spreading.
TED.
Yeah. This author adapted their TEDx talk, We Should All Be Feminists, into a 2014 book of the same name. This author depicted Ifemelu's experience of moving to the U.S. in a 2013 novel.
Adichie.
Yep. This American author's TED Talk, Confessions of a Bad Feminist, draws on her 2014 essay collection Bad Feminist. This author explored her Haitian heritage in the novel An Untamed State.
Nope. Francois.
Let's say...
Answer?
Kincaid.
This is Roxane Gay, 20 points.
Could have said French. Jamaica Kincaid is
2019. In this province, Shannon Kusatchin's death prompted Charlie Angus to support Have a Heart Day and protest for better living conditions in Attawalpiscat. The oldest operated canal in North America is in this province's Rideau Canal. The
Ontario.
That's power.
Okay.
Bonus. This one-time Jesuit often texted his aides in Latin. For 10 points each, name is politician whose father, Pat, had earlier served as governor of his state. This man defeated CEO Meg Whitman decades after the end of his second term as governor.
Pat Buchanan.
No, wait.
Is it Huey?
Yeah, try.
Answer?
Huey Long.
This is Jerry Brown. In 1977, Brown signed a law for a pioneering subsidy for these devices. Ronald Reagan removed some of these devices installed in the White House by Jimmy Carter.
Solar panels, right?
Solar panels?
That's right.
Nice.
A pillar of Brown's Buddhist economics platform in 1980 was support of this type of amendment, which mandates that a state cannot spend more than the revenue it raises.
Like
Budget cap?
Oh,
Budget maybe?
Yeah, sure. Budget cap.
It was a balanced budget amendment.
We get a last score check.
last question. Yeah, thank you.
Yes. So going into toss-up 20 is 290, 360.
Oh, so
it's
it's like
lost.
It's locked unless that protest comes through.
Well, if they win the protest.
Yeah, and so we do have a protest potentially in contention. I think if Plymouth gets it, it is in play. Otherwise, it may not be. All right, but let's read this toss-up. A character in this novel is said to have read this. A character in this novel is said to have read this novel in a 1952 essay titled "For the Partial Magic in It." In this novel, a servant dressed as Merlin tells a character to whip himself at the behest of two aristocrats.
Don Quixote?
That's power.
Nice.
Bonus. Bishop Adir Macedo became a billionaire after spreading his universal church of the kingdom of God through this industry. For 10 points each, name is industry used by figures like Oral Roberts to spread prosperity theology.
Like television?
That would make
Isn't
sense.
it? Maybe, yeah.
Television.
That's right. The UCKG was founded by Adir Macedo in this country. Macedo attacked this nation's African diasporic religions like candomblé, which are often practiced in this country's favelas.
Brazil.
In contrast to the approach of prosperity theology, this ideology supports a preferential option for the poor. This ideology is promoted by leaders like Gustavo Gutierrez. What just happened there? It just like refreshed in my second one.
Mine also went away.
For the grade 2.
Not even okay.
Oh, okay, it's back. Sorry. So continuing, this ideology is promoted by leaders like Gustavo Gutierrez and has prompted frustration with the hierarchical Catholic Church in Latin America.
I don't know, liberation theology? How's that come up here?
No.
Liberation.
Okay, you say it. Sure.
Answer?
Liberation theology?
That's 30.
Nice.
Wow.
All right, so that makes the final score Plymouth 340, Detroit Country Day 360. So that means the protest does matter. So those have been lodged. I don't know if we have any decision on them, but I think that probably you all will hear back about those after round 10. So I believe that you all can go to your next round, but good game.
Yeah, you say
Go to the next round. Like, go to the next round. You will be alerted.
Late 70s, okay.
All right, so we are on round 10, which is the final match today for the 2023 PACE NSC. In this room, we have Woodland and Detroit Country Day. Not like I messed up last time. Let's do a quick buzzer check. This round has a sponsor. Let me roll it up real fast. So, once again, this round is sponsored by the Art of Problem Solving, offering math, language, arts, and science books and classes in person online at aops.com. Check out their flyer in the NSC program. Thanks for them for sponsoring. And I think we're ready to get started. Is everyone ready?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Toss up one. In one story, this man wrote about an abolitionist who finds a stone idol's ear and escapes the Marie Celeste. This man's friend, Harry Houdini, mocked his belief in the
Doyle.
That's power.
Pause. Crazy buzz. Good buzz.
Bonus. In 2022, conservators began an intensive process to digitally unveil a painting by this artist, removing blue cloth later added to cover up a nude figure. For 10 points each, name this painter of the allegory of inclination, who likely depicted herself as Judith slaying Holofernes in a scene reflecting on her rapist Agostini Tassi.
Gentilish.
Say it again?
Gentilish.
Yeah. A member of this family commissioned Baldassare Franceschini to cover up Gentilessi's painting, which itself was part of a series meant to extol the virtues of a member of this family who left the Manchester Madonna unfinished.
Might be Medici. Probably Medici.
Buonarroti, as in Michelangelo Buonarroti. The allegory of inclination holds one of these objects. Leonardo da Vinci used these tools to draw ideal circles in the Vitruvian Man.
Compass.
Compass, yeah.
Compass. Compass.
That's right for 20.
It's a hard part.
Plus for 2. Following this case, the CMS released guidance on how emergencies could supersede state law through E.M. Tala. This case upheld an act written by the Alliance Defending Freedom that cited the findings of Gonzalez v. Carhart as a basis for its regulations. This case claims that necessary has meanings from essential to useful and cites the unworkability of a previous case's undue burden standard. A concurrence to this case stated that previous cases also based on substantive due process like Griswold should be...
Roe v. Wade?
No. Should be evaluated. Politico leaked the draft opinion of this case, which, upon being issued, led to several states' trigger laws being activated to establish heartbeat bans. For an point, same as 2022 Supreme Court case that overturned Roe v. Wade.
Jackson?
Yes.
You don't need the full name.
Either is acceptable. Okay. Dobbs is a more common term, but that one's fine. Bonus. A great dimming of Betelgeuse, a star in this constellation, began in October 2019, but was reverted by April 2020. For 10 points each, name this constellation whose stars Al-Natak, Al-Nilam, and Mintaka form its namesake belt.
Orion, yeah.
Orion?
Yep. Betelgeuse's great dimming was probably caused by the formation of this substance following a surface mass ejection. Betelgeuse will crash into a wall of this substance in 5,000 years.
I don't know.
Answer?
Plasma?
This is cosmic dust. The highest resolution photographs of Betelgeuse is from ALMA, an array of radio telescopes in this country. The Vera C. Rubin Observatory is under construction in this country that is home to the Very Large Telescope.
Go for it.
Chile?
That's right for 20. Plus for 3. The time derivative of a function for this quantity for s particles depends on a function for this quantity for s plus 1 particles in the BBGKY hierarchy. The ratio of this quantity for two states is their Boltzmann factor. Microstates for which the ergodic hypothesis holds have equal values of this quantity. The Born rule gives that this quantity equals the square of the amplitude of the wave function. Thus, wave functions must be normalized. That's right for 10.
Good job. Yes. That's a crazy buzz.
Bonus. Marcia Chetlin's Pulitzer-winning History of This Company and the Black Community notes how its franchisees helped popularize Martin Luther King Jr. Day. For 10 points each, name this fast food company that was the subject of the documentary Super Size Me.
McDonald's.
McDonald's, yeah.
McDonald's once sponsored a vacation contest themed around this popular 1977 production, whose characters include Chicken George.
Chicken George.
Oh, I don't know. It's
Answer?
12 Years a Slave. I don't know.
Roots. Chittilin's book just details how Ernest Hillard may have been murdered for trying to become one of the first black franchisees in the city. Carl Stokes, the city's first black mayor, led national press on a pollution tour after the Cuyahoga River caught on fire.
Cleveland.
That's right for 20.
I was like in the spirit of the answer.
No, I thought it was like a comic movie. That's why I was laughing.
Yeah.
Toss up. After a hermit begins a prophecy calling this figure unfortunate, this figure kills him. One of this figure's sons is killed by Constantine in front of an altar. Ethwag rudely delivers a peace message to this figure to incite a war. This figure was raised by a fisherman after surviving the sinking of a boat containing all babies born on May Day. This figure seizes power when a man leaves to fight the Roman Emperor Lucius. This figure kills Lamorak by stabbing him in the back. This man was born as a result of his father's incest with his half-sister Morgas. This half-brother of Gawain.
Mordred?
That's right.
Yeah. Who is that? Good buzz.
10 points.
Did research on that.
Bonus. Sarah Ahmed applied the notion of orientation to this field in a book on its queer form. For 10 points each, name this philosophical field whose practitioners used the bracketing technique to investigate how the embodied mind perceives ordinary objects.
Phenomenology. Yeah. Phenomenology.
Much of Ahmed's book analyzes Edmund Husserl's use of this furniture as an object of phenomenology. This piece of furniture shares its name with grid-like arrangements of data, such as ones used to display truth-value combination in logic.
Like a table? Is that? Yeah, table.
Yep. Ahmed builds on the two ways of looking at tables that this thinker described. This theorizer of a being in the world failed to protect his Jewish mentor Husserl in the 1930s.
Being in the world, is it just Heidegger?
I don't think so. Who's on there? Like,
Answer.
Heidegger.
Yeah, that's right. For 30.
I'm not gonna say anything.
Toss 5. 9 nobles of this ethnicity meet in a conference of rulers to elect their country's paramount ruler. People of this ethnicity participate in a united liberation organization aimed at independence for Patani. A political party named for this ethnicity, UMNO, spearheads the Barisan National Coalition. After people of this ethnicity clashed with Chinese people in the 13 May incident, policies favoring this ethnicity and other Buma-Putera groups were implemented. The country name for this ethnicity has been led by Tunku Abdul Rahman.
Malays?
Yes.
Nice.
10.
Malaysian history is wild.
Bonus. Like clockwork, every 90 years, cell biologists rediscover liquid-liquid phase separation. For 10 points each, name this phase-separated compartment of a larger membrane-bound organelle that was first discovered in the 1830s. It is where cells synthesize RNA.
So, nucleolus.
Yeah.
Nucleolus.
That's right. In the 1920s, biologists stumbled upon phase separation to explain how plant cells concentrate starch in these liquid compartments. Platelets are chock full of the dense and alpha type of these compartments, which also lend their name to a class of white blood cells, including neutrophils.
I think it's granules.
Granules? Sure.
Granules?
That's right. Biologists in the 2010s were re-infatuated when they found droplets of RNA can phase separate from this gel that fills the space between organelles.
Cytosol? No, wait, no, it's definitely not.
Answer?
That might be a cytosol.
That's right.
Okay, yeah.
30 points. Top 6. This artist adapted a song based on Piero Umiliani's soundtrack to the film Sweden, Heaven and Hell. This artist and Don Salin created a magic triangle for eye focus and a namesake stitch that minimizes seams. A character created by this artist for Purina food advertisements was performed via right-handing. This artist directed a film in which David Bowie played Jareth the Goblin King. This frequent collaborator of Frank Oz used ping pong balls and a turquoise coat to create a character who performs the Rainbow Connection with a banjo. This artist...
Jim Henson?
That's right.
Oh my god, that's his name, dude.
Bonus. Excerpts of ghazals from one of these collections are engraved on a poet's tomb in Shiraz for 10 points each. Give this term for Near Eastern collections of poems by a single author, one of which contains the surviving works of the Sufi poet Hafez.
I'm not sure.
Answer?
Couplets.
These are divans. Hafez's divan is written in this language, which was used for the Rubaiyat and many Iranian poems.
Farsi?
Yes. This other Sufi poet used Persian to write the Divan-i-Shams-i Tabrizi, which honored his teacher. Very loose translations have popularized this poet's spiritual couplets, or Masnavi.
Rumi?
That's right for 20. Tells 7. Opening and closing phases summarize the movement of these objects in the Wilson cycle. RRF junctions among these objects are unstable and evolve into FFR junctions, another of the 10 types of triple junctions that exist at boundaries of these objects. Planes called Wadadi...
Plates?
Prompt.
Tectonic?
That is power.
Good ball. Nice, dude. Good job.
So lucky. I heard what I was gonna nag.
Good job.
Bonus. The discovery of these objects provided archaeological evidence for Sima Qian's account of early Chinese history and records of the Grand Historian. For 10 points each, give this two-word English term, or the Chinese equivalent for objects like ox scapulae that were heated until they cracked in a form of divination from the Shang dynasty.
Oracle bones.
In another instance of archaeology confirming Sima Qian's writings, large amounts of mercury were found at the tomb of the first emperor of this dynasty, Shi Huangdi.
Shin.
Yeah. Sima Qian also accurately describes the tombs of this group of nomadic people. The Han dynasty repeatedly tried to appease this group with marriage alliances during a centuries-long frontier war.
Xiongnu.
Say again?
Xiongnu.
One more time?
Xiongnu.
Yeah, you got it. 3 points.
I know how to pronounce Xiongnu.
Toss-up. A figure typically known by this English word is replaced by a man in a trench coat with 2 sticks in Kahinda Wiley's Prelude series. A group of artists with this English name included an artist who depicted 2 large shrines being carried during a religious procession. A title figure with this name may be a stand-in for Colonel Friedrich Gotthard von Brinken. A group of landscape artists with this English name...
The Wanderers?
That's power.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking that earlier.
Bonus. Answer the following about industrial designer Raymond Loewy for 10 points each. Loewy is responsible for adding the gaudy blue nose to the plane that usually has this call sign. Lyndon Johnson took the oath of office on the plane given this call sign.
Air Force One.
One of Loewy's signature designs is his namesake coupe for this car company. This prominent wagon manufacturer exited the auto business in the 1960s after a failed merger with Packard.
Hewlett. Wait, what?
No, it's not
Fiat.
failed.
No. Who makes the Mini Cooper?
Answer?
Hewlett.
This is Studebaker.
Studebaker.
Loewy designed the GG1, an electric train made from one welded steel plate for this railroad company. This company names a New York City railroad station that is the busiest transportation hub in the Western Hemisphere.
Grand Central State. I don't know.
Yeah, but I don't know what the company like.
MTA.
Answer?
Okay.
MTA.
This is Pennsylvania Railroad Company or Penn Station.
Oh,
that makes sense. Okay, yeah.
Sorry, 1 second.
Yeah, 10 now.
Yeah.
That's not like 30.
That's not 30able. If you're under the age of 30, it's not good.
Yeah.
I think we should go on Penn Station. Studebaker.
Yeah, we should have gotten
40 plus.
No, we should have gotten Penn Station.
I know that.
Alright, toss 9. A syphilitic man prosecuted for this crime under the 1927 Sullivan precedent later transcribed the song Madonna Mia while in prison. It's not Watergate, but Richard Nixon's I Am Not a Crook line came during investigations into whether Nixon had committed this crime. Spiro Agnew resigned the vice presidency after pleading no contest to committing this crime.
Tax fraud?
Yep, that's fine.
Nice.
All you needed was tax.
Oh.
Bonus. MagLab houses 15,000 square feet of cooling equipment for its collection of magnets, which include one that clocks in at 45 of this unit. For 10 points each, name this unit of magnetic flux density named for a Serbian-American inventor.
Tesla.
Oh. The magnetic form of this process involves radiating heat from a magnetocaloric material before removing the magnetic field such that it cools to below its original temperature. A heat pump operating in a reverse Carnot cycle performs this process ideally.
Like cooling? Super cooling?
Okay.
Are you sure that's
Go with
Answer?
super cooling?
No, this is refrigeration. Extreme cooling and a strong magnetic field are required to induce this phenomenon, in which a namesake value of conductance is quantized by E squared over H.
Oh, wait.
Superconductivity.
Oh my god, wait, dude. I've seen it before.
Answer?
Superconductivity? Sure.
This is the quantum Hall effect, so 10 points.
Yeah, because that's the formula for the...
Wait, would you take just cooling for the second part?
I think you can prompt.
No, I can only take refrigeration or moving heat. I have to reject colloquialisms.
Okay.
All right, we're on task 10. These molecules, or derivatives of them, like PCBM, are the electron acceptors in most organic photovoltaics. An at symbol indicates noble gases are hosted at these molecules in endohedral complexes. These anti-aromatic molecules can be repeatedly cyclopropanated at their 6-6 bonds to decorate a surface of sp2.
Just alkenes.
Nope. sp2 hybridized atoms. These molecules dissolve in naphthalene to form violet solutions. These molecules were accidentally discovered in 1985 from a 720 AMU peak in a mass spectrum, but are synthesized today by evaporating graphite. These molecules form truncated icosahedra that have 60 vertices and pentagonal and hexagonal faces. Points, name these roughly spherical allotropes of carbon that resemble geodesic domes.
Buckminster fullerenes.
That's right. Bonus. The intermezzo from this opera plays behind the opening and closing credits to Raging Bull. For 10 points each, name this opera that is set entirely in the main square of a village on Easter morning. This opera depicts the relationship between Turadu, who is returning from military service, and his fiancée Lola.
No clue. Billy the Kid.
What?
Oh, Billy the Kid.
This is Cavalleria Rusticana. Because they are both short Italian verismo operas, Pietro Mascagni's Cavalleria Rusticana and this other composer's opera Pagliacci are commonly staged together as a cav/pag double bill.
Leon Cavallo.
Say again?
Leon Cavallo.
Yes. Pagliacci is titled for this profession of the main character Canio and his troupe. In the aria Vesti la Giaba, Canio puts on his makeup and costume after singing to laugh this profession at your broken love.
Like clown?
That's right, for 20. Alright, that's a half. So after 10, it's Woodland 90, Detroit Country Day 260.
Cool. 1 second. Do you, on...
Yeah.
Alright.
Alright, we are back on toss-up 11. Is everyone ready to get started? Okay. Alright, toss-up. This character wears an oval portrait of a dog around her neck at a party where she is repeatedly told not to abandon guests, including Madame Tofana. This wife of a military engineer goes to a party in apartment number 50 after smashing up the apartment of the critic Latunsky.
This woman is massaged with blood during a ball that takes place in the 5th dimension. This character gains powers of flight after applying cream given to her by Azello.
Like Margarita?
That's right for 10. Bonus. Answer the following about how to pray during Ramadan while menstruating for 10 points each. If a period starts during the day, the fast must be broken before this evening meal taken after the call for Maghrib prayer at sunset.
I'm not sure. Dinner.
As iftar. While menstruating, one could instead perform dhikr by repeating Allahu Akbar 33 times with the help of these objects. Christians count Hail Marys on one of these objects called a rosary.
Like beads.
That's right. If the period ends during Ramadan, one could perform one of these full ablution baths before Fajr and begin their fast. Muslims have these baths after sex, and they are contrasted with partial wudu.
I have no clue. Full.
These are ghusl, 10 points. Toss of 12. It's not a quarry, but a prominent Roman one of these institutions was the Tullianum. One of these institutions in Auburn, New York, placed heavy emphasis on silence in contrast to the Pennsylvania system for them. In 1778, Parliament asked John Howard to investigate the hulks that served these institutions in Britain before the widespread use of transportation. Gustave de Beaumont traveled to the U.S. to study these institutions alongside the future author of Democracy in America.
Like prisons?
That is correct, yes. Bonus. And that was 10. Suppose inconsistencies between this play and its nominal author's other output led scholar M.L. West to attribute this play to the author's son, Euphorion. For 10 points each, name this tragedy, which opens with Kratos and Bia standing here at the furthest verge of Earth.
I'm not sure.
Answer?
Macbeth.
It's Prometheus Bound. Prometheus Bound is traditionally attributed to this ancient Greek tragedian who definitely did write the Oresteia.
Aeschylus.
That's right. The plot of Prometheus Bound is based on an episode from this poet's Theogony. This poet's works and days inspired a Greek narrative in which he beats his predecessor Homer in a poetry contest.
Hesiod.
That's 20. Toss of 13. These organisms reproduce using gonadia, not spores, a process discovered by children's author Beatrix Potter when she studied their Cladonia genus. The trebuchoid type of these organisms can survive 98% desiccation and is used for simulations of Martian terraforming. Archaeologists did glacial deposits by measuring the size of these organisms' thalli. These organisms indicate sulfur dioxide pollution because their fructose morphology is sensitive.
Lichen.
That's right for 10.
I should have first lined that.
Bonus. In 1958, Rashid Mekloufi secretly flew to Switzerland to join a new national soccer team affiliated with this modern-day country's FLN. For 10 points each, name this country which fought a bloody war of independence against the French in the 1950s.
Algeria.
Some Algerian Harkis, who helped France, were forced by the FLN to perform this task on the Maurice line. Hero rats have helped with this dangerous task, which might be performed with a Mark I device invented by Joseph Kosatsky.
Clearing mines.
That's right. Harkis in France were detained in Rivesaltes, which was also used as a sojourn camp for refugees fleeing this conflict. The international brigades that fought in this conflict included the Lincoln Battalion.
Spanish Civil War.
Yeah.
Spanish Civil War.
That's 30. Tells 14. Banksy added a mohawk to a photo portrait of this person in a screen print named Turf War. A photo of this person inspecting a Tommy gun in Hartlepool appeared in a leaflet.
Winston Churchill?
That's power.
That's so free. It's yes, yeah.
Bonus. Scientists at Givaudan perform this technique on headspace gases to determine which molecules make perfumes smell good. For 10 points each, name this technique that identifies unknown molecules based on how quickly they pass through a stationary phase. It comes in paper and thin layer forms.
Chromatography.
Yep. The fragrance and flavoring industries heavily rely on this class of organic compounds that form when alcohols react with carboxylic acids.
Esters.
That's right. Nowadays, the most common industrial flavorant is mainly synthesized rather than being extracted from its natural host of flour. This aldehyde derivative of phenol is also used to stain TLC plates. Answer?
Formaldehyde.
This is vanillin, 20 points. 2015. On the last day of Bon, objects made from this material are used during the Toro Nagashi festival to guide spirits to the afterlife. Shinto purification rituals use zigzag types of this material known as shide. Some objects made of this material depict Yan Luo Wang and are placed in chalk circles. Examples of this material adorned with metal foil are destroyed during the Qingming festival to provide for
paper.
Yes, power.
Good job. Nice.
That's so. It's like literally a picture. I was like, what is it? What is this material? What are they doing?
Bonus. Harlan Ellison kept a pair of Game Warden boots that this person accosted him over wearing at a San Francisco bar. For 10 points each, name this person, described in a Gay Talese profile for Esquire as Picasso without paint when a cold threatens his ability to perform.
Maybe Wilt Chamberlain? What? Okay. Wilt Chamberlain?
As Frank Sinatra. The subjective and literary descriptions in Talese's profile helped pioneer the new style of this nonfiction genre, which Hunter S. Thompson published a gonzo style of in magazines like Rolling Stone.
Journalism.
This new journalist described the Doors and other rock stars as trying to hang on to the innocence and turbulence and capacity for wonder amidst drug addiction in her collection The White Album. She also wrote Slouching Towards Bethlehem.
Is she famous?
I think she is famous.
We should know this.
We should know this.
Isn't it Rand?
Answer?
No, Rand.
Rand.
This is Joan Didion, 10 points.
I don't know who that is.
2016. In this novel's final chapter, a group of men is led past a little round hole in the red earth wall by a man who repeatedly asks, "Perhaps your men can help us." This novel's protagonist realizes that people would not go to war after he attacks a man who came to stop a town meeting. This novel ends with the character...
Things Fall Apart.
That's power.
Good job. Nice.
Yeah, of course.
Give us.
I don't remember that.
I don't remember.
Bonus. This composer quoted the Agincourt song in the opening Chaconne movement of one of his concert band pieces. For 10 points each, name this English composer of St. Paul's Suite, whose final movement is adapted from his second suite in F for military band. Another piece by this composer opens with a 5/4 ostinato played by Cole Lenyo strings.
Is Holst English?
No, he's German.
Holst.
That's right.
Oh,
the first movement of Holst's second suite features a prominent solo for euphonium, a smaller version of this lowest pitched brass instrument.
Tuba.
That's right. The second suite's third movement includes music for one of these objects in reference to the movement's title. The words Vidi la Foscia opens an operatic song titled after these objects in English.
Maybe it's the flower song. Flower.
These are anvils, 20 points.
Oh.
2017. A conservative surgery approach to studying these things instead of a gridiron approach was championed by theorist Patrick Geddes. They're not fairs, but Daniel Burnham's 1893 work influenced the Macmillan plan for creating one of these things. These things cause people to distance them...
Like a city?
That's right. Power. Bonus. A choric song within this poem claims hateful is the dark blue sky vaulted over the dark blue sea. Death is the end of life. Ah, why should life all be labor be? For 10 points each. Name this poem, whose title characters conclude, "O rest ye brother mariners, we will not wander more." This poem's mild-eyed melancholy title characters repeat, "Let us alone."
Title characters? Maybe the Lotus Eaters?
Sure.
Answer?
Lotus Eaters?
That's right. In this poem by the author of The Lotus Eaters, the speaker yearns to follow knowledge like a sinking star, resolved to strike, to seek, to find, and not to yield, as he looks at a vessel puffing her sail.
Ulysses?
Ulysses in Lotus Eaters was written by this poet who describes some heroic horsemen in the charge of the Light Brigade.
Tennyson?
That's 30 points.
Nice. Good job.
Plus 18. The long ascending notes A, E, F sharp open a sonata for this instrument, the third of 5 by Beethoven, which was dedicated to Ignaz von Gleichenstein. Shalomo by Ernst Bloch is written for orchestra in this instrument. Friedrich Grunzmacher wrote a romantic virtuosic adaptation of Luigi Boccherini's...
Like cello?
That's 10.
Nice. Yeah, of course.
Bonus. The reason so many newspapers are called The Post derives from the notices that these people would post to the door of inns after performing their main job. For 10 points each, name is occupation, sometimes called a bellman for the objects used by people in this job. They're not officers of the court, but people with this job frequently use the word oye.
What?
Oh, yeah. Dude, isn't that what the people like the hibachi cooks say?
Answer?
Hibachi cook.
Is a town crier. Two bellmen appear on this work, a 70-meter-long record of William the Conqueror's triumph at the Battle of Hastings, now kept in a museum in Normandy. Another job of the town crier was to announce why these events were taking place. Gallows were often built in preparation for these gruesome events.
Execution.
That's right for 20.
Too easy.
Yeah.
Toss up. During Black August in the first year of this decade, the Ostenkino television tower caught on fire. In the first year of this decade, 118 sailors were killed in the Barents Sea when a nuclear submarine sank in the Kursk disaster. A year later, the space station Mir was deorbited after funding was removed during this decade. During a staging of the Nord-Ost musical in this decade, 850 people were taken hostage by Chechen terrorists.
The 2000s.
That's power.
It was the Moscow Theater Crisis.
Bonus. The monk John Cassian popularized this grouping in Europe with his text Institutes, which originally included vainglory among them. For 10 points each, name this grouping of vices in Christian demonology that traditionally includes sloth, envy, and wrath.
Seven deadly sins.
Seven deadly sins.
That's right. Demonologists such as Peter Binsfield called this demon the embodiment of envy. This Hebrew monster, contrasted with Behemoth in the Book of Job, was often depicted as a giant sea monster.
Leviathan.
That's right. This prince of hell, sometimes synchronized with Beelzebub, is associated with greed. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says that one cannot serve God and this figure, whose name is the Hebrew word for money.
Is ball or is I feel like ball.
Ball.
It's Mammon. That's 20. And last toss-up. In one poem, this author says, "You put me in Macbeth and Carmen Jones, and in everything but what's about me." This author claimed, "I like to eat, sleep, drink, and be in love," in a poem where he asks for a pipe or...
Hughes.
That's power.
Spies.
Bonus. Answer the following about the most densely populated desert in the world, the Thar, for 10 points each. The Thar is called the Cholostan Desert in the westernmost of two provinces that share this name. Lahore and Chandigarh are the capitals of two states with this name.
Probably Punjab.
That's right. The Thar is bounded to the northwest by this river that straddles the border of India and Pakistan and empties into the Arabian Sea near Karachi.
Indus.
Sandstone from the Thar was used to construct palaces like the Hawa Mahal in the city. India's golden triangle of tourism includes Delhi, Agra, and this pink city home to the Amber Fort.
Hyderabad, maybe?
Sure.
Hyderabad?
This Jaipur. Okay. That's 20 points. That's the end of the match. Final score, 140 for Woodland, 570 for Detroit's Country Day.
Good game. Good. Good game. Good game. Good game.
So, real quick, just want to confirm your records. So the resolution for you guys, I will read you what I was.
I was going to lose the stamp, but I feel like we should have.
So the stamp was ruled moot because of the number of points. So then the game you guys only won by 20, right? Yeah. And so you guys got 30 on the bonus. So you lose those 30 points, they get the 20 from the toss-up. Okay. So even without the bonus, they're up by 30. And so the stamp is... Yeah, okay, just making sure. And then, so the reasoning is that, so according to the Apprentice Committee, the majority of bacterial transcription occurs in the active units of operons, whose transcription begins at regions called operators. The answer provided is correct for all things.
Alright, cool. Alright. Can't argue with that. Thank you.
Alright, so hold on, but before you continue, so you're in capital leaf, so we can confirm your record